Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Tone Talk with Mark Uzansky and Dave Friedman. It's episode 165. We've got Tracii Guns of LA Guns. What's up, Tracii?
Not much other than the 15-minute conversation we just had.
Yeah, we were going on.
Yeah, the show's done, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, we've already been talking for a while, so we're going to dive right. So tell us. So Steve Vai.
Yeah, that's where we were kind of headed. Steve has his old studio, and his old house is like 100 steps from my house, and that's where the mothership studio. It's still there. The studio's there.
Light without heat originally.
Does he still own the house?
No. He sold the house.
That's right. You said it, but it's still accessible with a studio there.
I think so. 2 Chainz bought the house, but nobody's ever there. You know, it's always dark. So I think it was just like a good investment for 2 Chainz. But the studio, I'm sure, why would anybody tear anything out of there? You know, but when I first moved back up here, Steve, I was just talking to Steve because I was on his label. I did a couple records on his label, and he goes, you know, the mothership's right there. I go, yeah, you know, and we talked about it a little bit. He goes, I'm not there anymore, but I still own it, you know. And Greg Worth, his engineer, he was in there every day working with somebody or doing something. He goes, you know, just go get the keys. You can use it anytime you want. So, you know, I learned how to record in that studio. You know, that was the training ground with Greg Worth, you know, for me being able to make my own records, which came in really handy, you know, after 2011, 2012.
Was it tape or is it digital?
It's tape, but it's both, you know. And at the time we had access to the tape machines, but I had tape machines at home. So a lot of stuff, like I would do drums here sometimes and dump it up there. I do drums there sometimes and bring it back here and dump it into digital. And we had everything, you know. I mean, I still do. I do try to use my tape machine as much as possible, but man, it's tedious. It's so tedious, man. And tape's expensive, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, but the thing is, you know, I don't align the machines or do anything like that. So it's all, you know, audio, and it's like, that sounds great, you know, not like the old days where there was a technician in first thing in the morning every day.
Yeah, now it'd be hard to find the technician.
Yeah, boy, you ain't kidding, man. Yeah. Even trying to get your piano tuned is a big chore these days.
Yeah, it used to be there was tons of them in LA.
Yeah, for real.
Not so much anymore.
You know, but I mean, I think that's, you know, I've embraced it both ways. You know, the digital world is here, and you know, there's no point in fighting it. You know, and just kind of mixing things together, and you know, more tools, more laziness, less competition, because that type of competition is pretty low rent in my opinion. You know, a lot of guys that have really started creating in this loop-based recording technique. But I mean, we're not really here to talk so much about recording, but
we'll talk anything.
Yeah, it's all art, right? You know what I mean? And it's all.
We've literally talked anything on this show. We had about a 30-minute or more dissertation from George Metropolis on Scotch.
Nice.
So for quite a long period of time.
I played out of one of his amps when I was working with Blackie Lawless. Man.
Blackie had a whole bunch of his amps.
Yeah. I went down and you know, Blackie had this cool pad up Latigo Canyon where he had like a little round guest house building, and he had bought all of Elvis Presley's Palm Springs home interior.
Oh my God.
And put it in this, and it was so fucking cool. But
wow.
But part of my you know, my hazing, you know, to be in WASP ultimately, which I ended up, it didn't work out, was I had to play out of this Metropolis amp. You know, he had some songs recorded, and you know, he was very Black, like, okay, you know, lay down some solos. And I'm like, all right. got a distortion pedal? He's like, no, do it. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Okay.
Crank it.
So we did it, and it sounded just like a Plexi. It was cool. And and then when we rehearsed, he used that same 100-watt head, and it sounded good. It sounded what you'd expect it to sound like. But I love the logo. I always love the Metropolis logo.
Yeah. It was cool. For sure.
Not as good as Benson. Benson Amps has the best logo. I mean,
those are cool. I agree. Those are good.
They are.
I've never tried one of their amps. What's their flavor?
It's not us. It's
more vintagey, like ratty, vintagey, old combo-y sounding.
Yeah, definitely. In the sonic youth realm of just making something, strangling it and getting the most out of it, and then like really great for pedals and delays and
I see
stuff like that. And Chris Benson, he's a really good friend of mine, just such a cool guy, and so far removed from the Scorpions, Van Halen world. He's just like completely on a different plane. Has great ideas. Tried to stay a small company and didn't work out for him. Had to end up hiring staff and manufacturers, and I went through
that's when it starts to get bad.
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, in a way,
or good, maybe it depends.
Well, I think he likes the money, but I know he hates spending the money. All this money's supposed to come in, it comes in, and he has employees, and then he has, and he lives on a farm kind of vibe, so like. But it's like everybody wants your guys' stuff. You got to have it available,
Well,
do I know the term? Everybody wants something now.
Yeah,
they want the Jose amp.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody wants the Jose amp.
Everyone wants the Jose, to the tune of some incredible amount of emails I've gotten, like to the point where I'm like every single day I'm like, hang on a second.
Yeah,
you got to get the list going.
I have to get the list going, but I have to have the infrastructure to do the list. So
that's the thing,
another couple weeks we'll have the list ready.
It takes
and then
time.
We can take the list, and then you guys can battle it out when they go live on the website. So
yeah, I mean,
we're gonna break our server.
But that's the thing, there is a demand for certain things, I don't know if Fender is in big demand. I don't know what the demand for, new Marshalls is, but something as specific as a Jose tube amp.
Yeah.
It's like guys my age are like, oh my God, I gotta have that. But really, I mean,
yes, that's the exact email tone. I get it in every email.
Yeah, I can hear your email from here. It's
just, screaming at me.
Yeah, to my but the truth is the Brown Eye is the best rock amp ever made, and I've said it over and over again. It's if you're a guy that wants to show up with a guitar and nothing else but a fucking great amp, that's the one.
That's the
I mean, I don't really see a reason for most guys to not just go, oh yeah, that's the amp. I mean, I get the Dirty Shirley, I get all that stuff. I mean, everybody has their own taste.
Yeah, different flavors. I make different flavors for different styles of playing.
Yeah, but a Brown Eye, really, you can do all that shit with. I mean, I haven't messed with one that much, but I did have a great experience with one with Phil X. We played together, and the back line was Dave Friedman amplifiers.
Oh, it was probably down at Lucky Strike or something?
It was at Lucky Strike like 8 or 9 years ago, and I plugged right into this thing, turned the gain up just a little bit, and I didn't need delay. I didn't need anything. It was just like, fuck, this is.
You're like, great, let's go.
Yeah. So I've always said, when people ask, like, hey, what's like a good, high gain amp, and I'm like, well, there's all this stuff, but that Brown Eye, man, I mean, it's, it's hard to beat, and it's got all the inputs and outputs you could ever want, so why not just get one of those,
There you go.
Yeah.
And then you get emails. Can I have emails, dude?
I get emails, yes.
So,
for sure.
So before we dive deep, let me talk about our sponsors real quick.
Okay.
We've got Sweetwater.com, guys. Make sure you check out the link below. We've got
Get
a
your
link.
candy.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
They stopped the little what are those little tardy things?
Smarties.
Yeah. I
They
haven't got
I just
Smarties.
got some Smarties. I literally just got.
Well, I
was
was
gonna
upset.
say-
I was upset because I used to like the atomic fireballs.
Oh, they got rid of those.
And they don't have them anymore now.
Wow.
But they do now have root beer barrels, which I do like. So
Now I know they hate me because you guys are getting Smarties. And
I got Smarties I got the Rocktron pedal and it came with Smarties.
Okay, I'm jealous officially.
I had a thing written on my account that said to only send me atomic fireballs when they had those. And they would send me only atomic fireballs.
That's amazing.
And I go, this is awesome.
Hold on. You guys think I'm kidding? Right?
No, I believe you.
Right on my couch.
Is the Sweetwater candy. Yes.
There you
And
go.
there's no
For people, and what's in here? This is an unopened one. So I got 2 Tootsie Rolls, 2 bubble gums, and not an atomic one. Something
they don't have atomic anymore. It's done. So I know. And can we complain about the who on earth wants a lime Tootsie Roll?
I don't.
Oh,
No,
I don't want that.
they have the lime Tootsie Rolls and they throw them in there. It's just like, no. Okay, maybe the
No.
banana one. Okay, fine. But the lime, what is no.
No,
Yeah,
that's such an acquired taste, anyways. It'd be good if like they gave you like a little enchilada or taco candy, you know, for the lime Tootsie Roll. That kind of fits. But
Shit, now you make me want tacos.
let's go, man. I'm starving.
Tacos.
All right. Well, before so Sweetwater, check the link out.
Sorry. We
No,
derailed
really-
that.
Yeah, no problem. So we got the link there. Check out the affiliate link. And also fixpedalboards.com for all your pedal board needs. And they've got all kinds of stuff there for fixpedalboards.com and Thomann.com. Okay, guys. Check
For
out.
all you people in Europe that probably aren't watching right now. But
that's-
you can go later to Thomann and use our affiliate link.
Thomann's great. That's, you know, I also have a house in Denmark because I married a Danish woman and then we got but I still have the kid in the apartment over there. And Thomann is like Sweetwater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. They're the Sweetwater there. I got to go there one time before. Yeah, and do some stuff.
It's a thing. It's real.
You stay in generally when you go there, you stay in Bamberg, which is a little Bavarian town right near there. And it's cobblestone street Bavarian town where you're having the beers at the outside at the thing, and then
that's
it's a thing
over there.
That would be awesome.
But good.
So different. It's so different than here. It's amazing.
It's fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the beer is great.
The beer is great, especially in Bavarian town. Yes.
I bet. I don't drink beer. I have a band over there that I haven't been back in 2 years, but I have a band there. And at our first rehearsal, the other guitar player brings in 2 cases because they're Danish. They drink beer. Brings in 2 cases for rehearsal of something. I don't know what it's really the equivalent is. He goes, "Don't worry, it's cheap beer. You won't get that drunk." I'm like, all right. So I'm drinking this really tasty, cheap beer. I get halfway through the can and I'm wasted. Like I was like, "Whoa, what is in here?" You know, alcohol. Like, a lot of alcohol. Yeah, no, beer over there is definitely
Stronger. Oh yeah,
way stronger and really a thing. I mean, it's cold and dark there most of the year, so people drink.
true.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Keeps them warm and happy.
It's like we do it now. Drink.
Right. Yeah. I can't do it. I can't do now.
Well, see the whole thing for me, you have to be there fucking 3 or 4 days, whatever. I guess this year it was 3. Talking to people
nonstop,
not morning to night, and then it's like the only way you get through that is to actually drink.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a groove, but I think for most artists, you go in to do a specific thing, and then you look around a little bit, and then you get in really boundaryless kind of conversations with people, and get stuck kind of talking to 3 people at the same time. And there's always one person that's very overbearing that doesn't care what the other people are trying to say. And so you're trying to pay attention to the 2 sweet people. And then there's this guy, what fucking distortion pedal do you use? Come on, tell me, man. I know you're lying when you say, that always happens to me, at these gear kind of things. And somebody insists that I'm doing something different than what I say I'm doing. It's like, wow, is it that important? Jesus Christ,
Well, give me 5 other things that I can make the same sound with my hands.
I mean, that's the
right
deal.
Here.
I mean, if we're talking about, rock tone, I mean, a JMP with a SD1 made in Japan, and that's kind of it. I mean,
well, that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
That's where all the mods came from, because I want to do it without the pedal, so we create a mod that sounds like the pedal into the amp. So that's essentially how it all kind of came about.
Yeah, I mean, and I just recently became friends with your buddy Brian Wampler.
Oh yeah,
and I had to put a live rig together because we have a new album coming out, and we have a couple gigs, or we have had a couple gigs. And every year before we go out on tour, I have a complete existential meltdown of what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, really, and I always call Vi because he's just like, hey man, this is what I'm doing. I don't know if it's going to work for you. What have you been doing? And what is it you don't like about it? And what do you want to change?
Mm-hmm.
And it always comes down to, I want to play out of something that's this big, but it doesn't do what this does. You know what I mean? So, and I knew, like, especially this year, I knew he was playing with Adrian Belew. So he has a smaller rig and stereo and like doing all the fun stuff and all that. So we kind of got into that. And he gave me one of his legacy cabinets, a 212 cabinet, a bunch of years ago. And that thing just sounds great. It just does. Mm-hmm. It's just like no matter what I plug into it, it's good, but it still doesn't throw sound all around the stage. So I always, I got to end up having tons of cabinets and, stuff running all over the place. And then I got on with Brian. I'm like, hey man, I don't want to use my digital stuff. I want pedals, man. I want to make this work like I did when I was, young. And he's like, okay. So he sends me all this stuff. We spent hours on the phone, and then I end up just going back. I use this thing, I use a head rush, and it really does, all the shit I needed to do. I run my head through it. The preamp goes in the front, sends out to the power amps of 2 of my amps, and
like a 4-cable method thing.
Yeah, it's like it's 5 cables because it's stereo. That's the only difference.
Oh, that's great.
It works, man. It's like it really works. It defeats the purpose of wanting a small rig, though. You know what I mean? It's like well, okay, here I am back to 200-watt heads and 4 cabinets, and
yeah, but it sounds good.
It sounds really good.
So here's the thing. It's like I always, there's this whole, trend of no cabinets and all this stuff. And I'm sorry, that's just not rock and roll.
No, it's not.
You need to move a little bit of air. It doesn't have to be necessarily like screaming, but you need to move some air. You need to have a cabinet on stage, at least something.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, again, everybody's different. Everybody's used to what they're used to. But I think when you grow up, watching 8mm films of Jimi Hendrix and The Who and Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads and Jimmy Page, there's no way, after playing for 30 years live, through, 200-watt amps, that you're going to think it's okay to play with in-ears direct. I mean, it's impossible, because there's a couple things. When I hit a C flat, which is still the 3rd fret because I tuned down, it has to feed back. That note has to go.
Right.
And that happens because of the relationship between you,
volume,
the volume, your feet on the floor, the vibration, the cables, and the speakers and the pickups. You know what I mean? It's just, and that has to, you know, that's how I dial in my tone. If it's not doing that feedback, I'm not there yet. It's like, okay, a little bit more gain, a little less low mids, you know, blah, 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 blah. And once it starts whistling, it's like, cool. And that's usually, you have to be like right around minimum of 120 dB in any room for that really to happen now. And so with different sound men, the older guys get it and they mix around the guitars and you're loud and it all makes sense. But I've really, in the last 15 years, you know, we play big clubs and theaters, and a lot of times just the house sound man. And they freak out, man. They just like, why are you so loud? It's like, well, that's a starting point for you. They've never grasped that reality of, you know, these big amps were made for a reason. And
yeah, I mean, this isn't this hard. They always try to make it so hard. Okay, so you have a drummer. You see, he can't turn down, by the way.
That's right.
So he's gonna crack that snare so fucking loud, it's gonna rip your head off.
Yep.
So okay, the drums are playing. Bring the guitar amps up till they kind of level out nicely with the drums or the bass and everything, you know. So if you're standing in the room in front and you're just looking at everything, it all sounds somewhat balanced. Okay, now it's your job just to slide that up in the PA.
That's
all you have to do.
That's it. You know, but
it's so loud I can't put the guitar in the PA. Bullshit, you can't.
Yeah, no, it gets ridiculous. It's actually come certain times where I have a dB meter on my phone,
right?
And you know, I just stand 10 feet away from every instrument on stage with the sound man. I go, well, look, the drums right now are peaking at 122. I go, here's my guitar, it's peaking at 119. You know, so you know, what are you saying? You know, this is audio. This is your job. You understand these things. You know, and then when they see that, you know, when something's tangible, people understand.
Mm-hmm.
When you can see it, when you can go, oh yeah, okay, you know, and that's my way of disarming, you know, disgruntled, you know, 21-year-old sound man. It's like, look, man, didn't you go to engineering school? What's engineering school? Okay, fair enough.
How about you stop being never mind. I won't go that far.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because, you know, I ran into Tom Weber 2 years ago, and he was working for CC, and we were doing a show together, and, you know, he put CC's rig together, and I think he had like, you know, 5 of what I think they were JBM Marshalls, you know, something really high gain and like all this stuff. And I go, man, this is awesome. He goes, I'll never do it any other way. This is the only way. I'm like, yeah, you know, fuck yeah, you know, because, you know, just going through the late 70s and all the way through the 80s, big was better. More is more, you know, and I don't care what anybody says. Now, I'm really good at like dialing in a Katana or a Line 6 amp. Like I can get it there. I can get it loud and all that stuff. But then all my friends are old like me and they laugh at me. You can't go on stage with that. People want to see your gear. People, you know, they want this, they want that. And it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all used to, we all expect something from the people we go to see, especially as guitar players. You know, it's like, what's it using?
Right.
You know, it's always the thing when you walk in.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Guitar rig rundowns used to be cool until in recent years when it's like, oh, here's my nice guitar. Here's my vintage this. Here's my this. Here's my cool Explorer. Here's this. And then, oh, yeah, what are you using for amps? Oh, a Kemper.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're putting the vintage guitar through the Kemper.
Yeah, that's what they do, you know. But here's the thing. Here's where it gets lost. You know, if I was using a Kemper, or let's say the Head Rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm using a model that's in there, I would go into a little bit of detail. Like, yeah, I'm using this modeler, but this is the model I'm using, and you know, and I'm either running it straight or I have it EQ'd. I have 2 of them for stereo, you know. But yeah, I mean, the rig rundowns are like, yeah, like I have this really nice guitar, or I have I have a Burst and a Kemper, and that's it, man. It's like, so if I buy a Kemper and a Burst and I just plug right into it and turn it on, it's going to sound like that? No, you have to spend time, you know, with this stuff. And I did do a gig with in-ears for 2 years in Vegas. But I did have my 250-watt plexis on stage behind glass. So even though I was really dialed in here, sometimes I could take one out and I'd be like, okay, there it is, like, and there's the audience,
You can still sort of feel it, the rumble.
Yeah. Because I mean, for rock, you need that kick drum, the bass guitar, and the guitar's bottom end to really happen.
Yeah.
And then the gig happens. That's weird.
Yeah. Hey, we got some questions, and one of our favorite names, Scent of a Wheelchair Pillow.
Oh my God! Okay,
that's our favorite, hands down, our favorite guy. That title,
that Jesus. Name is just
frightening to think about.
You win the prize.
Best name ever.
Yeah, love seeing you all in the NAMM videos. Can you tell me what you use to switch between all those Synergy modules in that rack? I have a ton myself.
Oh, the Synergy mod, that was just a RJM switcher that we had in there that was switching between multiple Syn 2 preamps. So I mean, it's set up, to switch. I forgot how many Syn 2s are in that rack, like 8 or something.
Wow.
What is that?
The Synergy,
the module like Vi has.
Oh,
the Synergy module thing.
Oh, I remember when
modules. Yeah.
I don't think he really does that anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, he still does.
Okay.
Yeah, he's doing it.
I know what you're talking about, though. Oh, that's his thing, right? Synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing that. At least he did it for the last.
No, he's still doing it. Yeah.
Thanks, Wheelchair Pillow. Thank you.
Wheelchair.
Man, the visuals on that one are just
yeah.
Ugh.
3J Music, what's going on? The first 3 LA Guns albums were a big part of my development as a guitar player and soundtrack to my teen years, and Tracii still inspires. Thank you, Tracii.
Well, you're welcome. That's all I ever cared about is, I wanted to be able to do something that somebody else wanted to do because, that's how we all get into it. Like somebody does something and I want to do that. And I think for me, it's more of just this really addictive hobby, trying to, every year putting something out that I love, hoping that somebody else digs it. I mean, it's a fun interaction with our fan base, especially, all the musicians, who through the years, they've stuck around and, we do something a little different every time, but it always sounds like LA Guns. And that's the best compliment I could ever get.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Yeah. Robert Pierce. Yo, Tracii, stoked for you in all your musical endeavors. Last I saw you, you played a Moose Lodge with Leagues of Gentlemen. Such a great memory for me.
I know what he's talking about. I'm not sure if it's the same Moose Lodge, but yeah, we played down in San Diego, and I'd say it was more like Spawn Ranch. It was such a trippy place, and I think it was on a Halloween. And my band that I had then, League of Gentlemen, was very psychedelic, jam rock, loud, Hendrixy, kind of like Hendrix meets Pink Floyd in a way. But yeah, the Joe Donner that works at Sweetwater, he booked that show, and because he had a show called a store called Gear Hounds down in the San Diego area, and that's why that show happened. I remember that.
How long ago was that?
2012, I think.
Okay. Rummy, what's up? Tracii and Randy inspired me to play a Les Paul. Would he please talk about how he wrote Electric Gypsy and developing the solo for Over the Edge?
Okay. Electric Gypsy I stole from Wild Side by Motley Crue. We were just about finished with the first record, and the record was like only 28 minutes long. We had 10 songs or 11 songs, and it only totaled that amount of time. So our A&R guy had come in, and we were basically listening to everything that had been recorded, all the songs, and he noticed that it was really short. And, he said, hey, this record has to be at least 30 minutes long. We'd like to have at least 33 minutes. So I was cruising home, and Wild Side came on. And when I got in my little tiny apartment with a Tascam 4-track and everything, it was just kind of going through my head. And I think, I'm not sure how Wild Side, I don't know if I can play Wild Side, but it has the same kind of rhythm. All those chords. And Wild Side, kind of that. So like, that's how it started, was just like total Mick Mars inspiration kind of thing. And then the Cream part that comes right after it, it was a White Room, it just fit so good. And I don't take inspiration lightly. When it comes, I own it, I put it together, and that's what that song is. And then when it came to doing the solo on Electric Gypsy, I wanted to do that kind of it's a harmonic minor scale, but it sounds very Egyptian or something. And my guitar tech was living with me at the time, and he told me it sounded cheesy, and then I knew that was the right thing to do. Yeah, whatever somebody says something's like uncomfortable, I'm like, yeah. But over the edge, that was such like a kind of, Phil brought in the main riff, which was just kind of generic hippie, Celtic folk rock. But when the drummer started playing over that, when Phil was playing an acoustic and the drummer was playing this big John Bonham beat, and then I put my electric on and I just started playing it, the figure, and then added to give it some weight. And then we got it that far, and Phil had like a poem that he wrote, to put over that. So it was still kind of hippy dippy. And then when I came up with the chorus chords, which is just that minor 6 progression, C major, D major to E minor, then it became a song. And then it started having more of an aggressive feel about it. So putting a solo together over a minor 6 progression is the greatest thing in the world. That's like Stairway to Heaven. That's a minor 6 progression he's soloing over. It's the greatest jam chord progression you could ever do. So I think during rehearsal or pre-production, whatever you want to call it, before we actually went in the studio, I like to play it live a lot instead of going home and working on it, because it had such a great Led Zeppelin kind of backbeat, to just jam over, that I think that the main solo was completed before we even went in to record the song. But the end solo, that took a couple days, because it really had to not be like the main solo. It had to be something else. Any song over 4 minutes, you got to stop repeating stuff. You got to, there has to be a reason something's 6 minutes long.
Right.
But I use different guitars on the 2 different solos, and the one in the end, solo on the end, was this custom guitar that Ibanez built for me at the time, which had these really low output single coil pickups, like really like, you could crank, a JMP all the way up and the guitar is still going to be clean. They were that low output, and it sounded so cool in the neck with like with a SD1, and then the other one is a Les Paul. The main solo is a Les Paul with a harmony that I played over it. But that whole album, I use a stock JCM 800 and a Mesa Boogie Mark IV. And the Mark IV made it for all the other sounds, like all the kind of coloring behind the big chords and stuff like that. You know, those Mesa Boogies are cool, man. And it just had a little 12-inch speaker in it. And, you know, and Michael James Jackson produced that record, who's like a really serious rock producer, engineer type guy. So we had so much fun doing that record, man. Wow.
Cool.
That's cool. How long ago was that?
That was, we recorded that album was called Hollywood Vampires, and we recorded it in 90. When did we record it? 91. I think it came out in 92 or early 93. And we had all the big studios booked out. We were in like 6 studios at the same time, like doing drums at Ocean Way, doing scratch vocals somewhere else.
Those are the days.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing was,
Days when there were budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if people really know the reality of those budgets, though. You know, like
yeah, you don't make money for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. So, like, you know, for that album in particular, there's some reasons we got an extraordinary amount of money to do that record, and it was because of a label flaw that happened on the previous record. So they gave us extra money for the third record, and it was like 1.1 million was the total budget in advance. You know, we could, you know, go over whatever. That's just the way it was. But as I found out later, you know, that's why there's a network of producers back then to allocate that money in a way to where money's flowing back to engineers and people at the label and things like that. So yeah, we had 5 studios, the 6 studios. We had 3 different people do 3 different mixes. Everybody was getting paid. You know what I mean? Even the 22 restaurants that delivered them, they were getting paid. So at the end of the day, you know, everybody, our whole crew, whole band was getting just salary, you know, that's coming from that budget. Studios are getting paid. Everybody's getting paid. And then, well, you know, then you got to go sell a bunch of records if you want to see any return, any back end. And LA Guns got really lucky because we were always a gold band. We were never a platinum band till later. So by our 4th record, things had changed, and we had gone from Polydor, and then the 4th label, or the 4th record, was on a label. It was on A&M. You know, Universal had bought everything, and now there were multiple labels. So we were on A&M, and we did that record, and another huge budget, but nobody really gave a shit anymore about, you know, what we were doing. So put the record out, it had very minimal success, went out and toured, and it was okay. And then something, because we kind of had a 360 deal, meaning they had our publishing, they had our merchandise, they had this stuff, but this was before 360 deals. It just happened that Polygram or Polydor had purchased Great Southern Merchandise Company, who we were already signed to for our t-shirts and all that stuff. So somehow when we parted ways with Polydor, they wiped the slate clean for us. They're like, look, there's too much accounting here between, you know, publishing and t-shirts and record advances and Tom Werman, you know, champagne bottles. You know, we don't want to deal with it. So we love you guys. We want the best for you. We're going to start from here. It's clean. You're going to start getting your mechanical royalties. So we got really lucky because we were nowhere near recouping. And that was in 1994. And right away, man, 6 months after, you know, we signed the paperwork to be released, I started getting, you know, really nice mechanical royalties, you know, like, wow, you know. So we've had good luck. LA Guns has had a lot of good luck.
That's good. Good to hear.
Good. I was going to say, that's good to hear in a sea of bad stories.
Well, you know, I've always been nice to people, you know, I mean, to a fault, you know what I mean? Like I'm a really happy person. And if someone fucks me, I don't know for a long time, because I just can't believe that someone would
do something
shitty.
Yeah.
And then, you know, whoever my partner is at the time is always telling me, this guy, and I'm like, nah, you're making it up, they're great, but inevitably everybody else around me is always right, except for the music, but everything else I'm never right.
That's funny.
That's good.
Reality.
Dawson Walters. What advice would you give to a 20-year-old guitar player?
Become a lawyer?
Stay in school?
Stay in school.
I mean, being 20 years old, it depends on what movie you've made in your head. Like, have you made the movie like I want to be Jimmy Page, I want to be Eddie Van Halen, or have you made the movie I really love playing, and man, I'd love to, make some music and go play live and have people come around and, see where it goes. It depends on your attitude. It depends on, do you have goals? I'm not goal oriented. So my thing has always been do what I want to do, love what I'm doing, and hope and pray that somebody else likes it. That way you don't design your music to appeal to certain audiences, and then you do costume changes every year because the last costume didn't work.
Right.
So if you can just do what you love, I find that if you do have any kind of success in the real world, that you're much more grateful for it and a lot less bitter when you don't have success.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. Just do what you love, essentially.
I think so.
Yep. That's good advice. Good luck, Dawson.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck.
Tough industry right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be good to see more guitar players. Purposeful Porpoise. Thanks for the super chat. I find my 2204 JCM 800 with a gain at noon, boosted with a micro amp, full, sounds exactly like my metal panel Plexi boosted. Does this mean that the gain setting on an amp I'm not hitting the cold clipper?
Here's the thing. A JCM 800. Really, a JCM 800 is just a lot like an old, Plexi kind of. It just has a cold clipper stage, like you're talking about. That just adds the slightest amount of gain. Really, I don't think an 800 style circuit really comes alive till you get the master up to a kind of blistering levels, and then it's really cool.
they're so loud.
When you really drive the power section like you would an old amp, and have the gain back at around 6 or something, 5, 6, 6-ish. You all of a sudden it comes alive as soon as you're clipping that power section. I'm talking like 8, like way up. Of course it's going to sound like a Marshall still. You know what I mean? It's like
to me, this is like a really interesting part of the conversation, because what does a Marshall do? And a Marshall is loud. That's really, all the, Michael Schenker playing in 1976, straight into Marshall,
loud
with nothing in between, and he has sustain, right? It's like, feedback and sustain. So here's a quick Eddie Van Halen story. Eddie loved super leads, and I had a mint Plexi and a mint just metal panel, and I gave them both to him. We were playing golf all the time, and he had like a little collection of them in his room on the floor, like, maybe 4 or 5 amps. And I go, well, he knows what to do with these. I didn't, I always had master volume amps. So got the Plexis cheap. I think I paid like $800 for one, and the Plexi like $1,300. Mint. Sitting in the living room is kind of like furniture for a couple of years in a case, and every now and then I would drag a 412 in the living room and I'd plug into one and it'd go clank, 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 clank. I go, I don't know what to do with these. So I gave them to him. And I get to his place about 8:30 in the morning. You know, when you play golf with him, you go early, you know. So we show up, and I told him, I go, hey man, I got a really bad stomach ache, you know, today, and I don't want to walk back down to my car. Would you run down to my car and grab my clubs for me? And he's like, he just looks at me like I'm a total asshole, right? He goes, what? I go, no, seriously, man, you know, be my bro right now. He's like, yeah, man, whatever. Okay, fine. So he goes down, and it was only like 50 feet away. And he opens my trunk, and he goes, I don't see any golf clubs. I go, yeah, they're there. He goes, you got 2 Marshalls in your trunk. I'm like, yeah, grab those. Because what are you talking? Like he just thought I was being such a dick, you know? And I was like, what? No, you grab them. And I walk down there. I go, those are for you, man. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I don't use them, man. I know you love these things. We brought them up to the house, up to the studio. And I go, I could never make these things sound good. And he goes, well, maybe there's something wrong with them. And I go, I don't know. He goes, let's fire them up. And we fire up just the normal super lead first, and he just dimed it and turned the bass all the way off. We plugged the guitar into it, and voila, right? It was fucking unbelievable. I'm like, give me that guitar. And I'm like, and the thing of it was, it's, you know, once you get to 1 or 2 on a plexi, it's already too loud, right? So loud. You keep going. And then once you get to like 4 or 5, it's loud as fuck, but it doesn't get any louder.
No, it gets more distorted.
It just gets better and better and better and better. And I did not know that. So when you're talking about, especially a 2203 or 2204, yes, it has the master volume, and you know, it's got the preamp. But the thing is, you got to crank that master, and then
it comes alive.
Because that's the key. And I didn't know that. I was 27, 28 years old, playing for all those years, and did not know how a Marshall worked.
I think there were a lot of people who didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, oh, it's clean. What the hell? I'm not getting that distortion. Yeah, but play it fucking loud as balls. Yeah. And then
crazy. And because I had, you know, especially I had no real reason, because when I was in the earliest version of LA Guns and Guns N' Roses, I did have 2 plexis, but they were both modded. So they had master volumes, and they sounded more like a JMP, I guess.
Who were they modded by?
Jerry Blaha.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they weren't the best mods, but I got what I needed out of them.
Yeah.
They had a red button, and I hated when I pushed the red button in. You do that, and it was like, did you put a rat pedal in my fucking Marshall, man? You know,
yeah, their mods weren't that good. Yeah, but you know, yeah, I remember. But
the master worked. You know, the adding the master was good enough, because I could just turn it up and be like, okay, this is a good sound. But after that, I got the 3 1987 JCM 800s at Manny's in 1988 with 6 brand new cabinets, and you know, we were playing Meadowlands Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Pull those suckers up there, crank them up. I could turn the masters up to 6, fucking just blowing my head off in arenas, man. There's nothing like it. So, you know, when you have a question about, well, you know, I have a JCM 800, you know, that kind, and you know, what do I do? And it's like, always know that the louder the master is, or you know, the main volume, that's where your beef is going to happen. And
here's the other trick with those. So the other trick with those is on the gain pot of a JCM 800 or a JMP master volume amp is a big old bright cap.
Mm-hmm.
And as you turn it down, the gain, it gets leaner and tighter in the low end.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily, like from say 7 to 10, it's not less gain at 7 than 10. It's the same gain, but it's just leaner. It's like tighter, bright, and at some point it gets too lean. Like at under 5, forget it. It sounds like a brittle mess.
Right.
So like, you know, really the only spot to run it is 6 to 7 on the gain, and then do the master to taste. But the louder you get the master, the more distorted it's going to get.
Yeah.
And at some point it comes alive. Sometimes it's not 10, but maybe it's 7 or 8, you know, or it's a little bit backed off.
Yeah.
But
and then use your I would call it the $50 mod pedal, whatever it is, a SD1 or a
yeah, you might not need anything at that point if it's really cranked. So
but that's really all the guys that we grew up listening to, that's what they were doing, man. Joe Walsh in particular, James Gang stuff is just like, wow, man, that's what a Marshall and Les Paul sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh, so Nam, you released the Jose. Did you get a chance to check out the Marshall modified amp?
I didn't go listen to it in person. I saw some videos on it.
Yeah.
Seems cool.
It's cool. I mean, it's like a little, how they implemented it was a little terrible inside.
Oh, really?
But well, yeah, we were kind of making a joke. Well, actually, Shay from Monomyth made a little joke. He put a picture of the guts of it because he saw a picture in their video or something, and it's like all these wires just strewn across the amp. And in this style of master volume they did on the Plexi, which is like a Jose master, but not the Jose extra gain stage or anything else, just the master. The wires strewn across like they are in that amp would have so much bleed that if the master was at 0, you'd be like loud through the cabinet still.
Wow.
Because it's a really so where that master sits is the highest signal level in the amplifier, and you have to be careful where it's close to, physically close to.
Yeah.
And or shielded wires needs to be used and stuff. So otherwise there's crosstalk. It's actually kind of a bitch to get rid of the crosstalk in that style master. And we're just looking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I see where they're getting all the distortion from all the bleed into the phase inverter." And I'm like, I go, that's someone that didn't really know what they were doing, to be honest. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the consensus, I don't know. You guys read what the consensus is. I've gathered the consensus from most people.
Well, the thing is about everybody watches
too little, too late, kind of, sort of.
Maybe that's a nice thing because for me it was like a little bit of eye candy, like, oh wow, okay, cool,
yeah, sure,
stuff. But then realizing that the volume they're playing it at, with the microphone on the computer, whatever they're using, they're playing at like 80 dB, and I know from the Jerry Blaha experience and others, even Lee Jackson, he modded something for me. That stuff sounds really good at a medium volume. But for some reason, when you start cranking it and you're using those mods, it creates an unwanted distortion, like some kind of like extra curly hair.
It's so when you have a gain mod and you're playing with a decent amount of gain at a lower volume and you turn it up, and then you start getting gain on top of that from the power section distorting, or the phase inverter of the amp distorting, you need a leaner front end. You need a front end with less gain, because at some point it just starts sounding like shit.
Yeah, I agree.
It's too much. It's like if you put a fuzz pedal into a cranked Marshall N10 and it's just like, well, this isn't sounding good anymore.
Yeah, it's too much.
Too much. Yeah, mud.
Yeah, I don't. Forever until this year, I've been using really low output PAFs. Because I like high gain. So by minimizing what's going into the preamp, I've had really good luck over the years. But I'm doing the signature pickup with Tim Mills at Bare Knuckle, and we did that, and I came to the conclusion with him. I go, we can't beat the PAF you already have, which is the riff raff.
Yeah.
I go, so, let's go the other way, because the other pickup I really love is the DiMarzio Super Distortion, the first one, the really great pickup. I go, but the thing that I don't like about it is that when I'm running through high gain amps, it has a weird ping on top. And it doesn't matter what guitar I'm using or anything. If I'm using that pickup with the yellow pedal and a JCM 800, there's a weird high-end thing that happens. It's like, what is that? And I told Tim, and he goes, I know exactly what it is. Let me send you this pickup out. And he made me, so we went from Alnico 5 to ceramic, you know, we went to like double the winding. So now we're at like 15K, you know, whatever. And I don't know what he did to the top end, but it sounds so fucking good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Sounds awesome.
But the cool thing is now when I plug in, I can back off that preamp gain a little bit, and then you really get the clarity of the guitar still. But forever, I had to go low output on the guitars because I would lose clarity of the actual guitar with all the gain. So like it's always like a little bit of a, you know, balancing,
right?
You know, balancing gain and gain stages and stuff. And I don't have that many gain stages. It's just every different guitar player has a different taste of what they're trying to get, you know. And when you go, you know, invader pickup into metal zone into, you know, BE on 10,
right?
Well, you know, how's your clean sound doing? You know?
Yeah. What clean sound?
Yeah.
That's funny. We got another question here. Richard Matsu. Dave, when testing the IR preamps, what power amp and cabs did you run them through when comparing them versus the full head tone you were aiming at?
Well, pretty much I never listened to them through amps. I pretty much listened to them direct into the recording interface, you know. That's what I was really listening. What initially I did, though, was I did compare the preamp of, say, just the in and send, the preamp versus the amp. It's like so if it's the IRX pedal, I compared its preamp section to the preamp section in B100 Deluxe with a switcher where I could just click between them and I could go back and forth. And when they were the same, it's like, okay, that's great, it's done. And then listen to them direct into the interface, you know.
Wow. That stuff's really interesting to me.
Yeah, that stuff's great. It's good for travel if you can't take something or something, you know. You can do that, and then even just plug into the effects loop return of anything that you rent, and at least it's consistently the same, you know.
Well, that's what I used to do with the head rush. You know, I had like whatever their high gain head was. I think it was like a Soldano or something, and it really consistent. You know, ran it all the time. But I found though, in two different environments, you know, recording environment and live environment, you know, there was something lacking about the tube preamp section that just, you know, lacking, I mean feedback. You know, something, some harmonic distortion that wasn't happening. And then in the studio, it's really interesting because I can record with amp models and it really sounds great, right? It really, really does, you know, until I record something with a microphone. And, and I go, wow. And the main difference is, and I do use both. The new record, I didn't use any amp models. It was the first record I've done in years with just amps. But what I would do is I would, you know, have, you know, a mic'd up amp, get a great sound, and then I could kind of reinforce it with some of the more high gain models, right? Or like, let's just say I'm playing a Tele through an amp model over here and a Les Paul through a real Marshall on this side. The one thing that I always noticed when it came time to mix is that with the amplifier that's mic'd up, when you're cutting frequencies with an EQ, it's the track is much more responsive than the modeled digital recording. I don't know why that is, but the microphone is a lot more capable at the end of the process versus, you know, let's just say, you know, a Soldano straight with a humbucker. It already looks way more compressed in the waveform than the tube amp with the distortion pedal. It's the waveform. You know?
Well, it almost always, compared to for the fake versus the real, it almost always in a track sits very different. So you can mix, generally speaking, you can mix the tube amp, or say you recorded a Plexi or something. Right. You can mix it much lower in the background and still hear the amp. Still hear it. but the modeler will be, okay,
Buried.
it's too quiet. I can't hear it. It's too loud. Now it's too loud. And I can't get it to sit.
Right.
There's something about the tubes that just get it to sit right. I don't know why. You might be able to just isolate it, A/B the tube, and go, hey, they sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Until you actually put it in the track. And then you're like, wow, shit, it's too quiet. Now it's too loud. Shit, now it's too quiet. No, it's too loud. I can't get it balanced. Put a plexi in and you're like, look, right there. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, like no matter where it is, too. And it's the same with tape. Like, let's say I just record, drum tracks, bass track, guitar track onto tape with an amp. The mix is done already. Like, because the harmonic distortion that happens with all those elements just kind of naturally kind of puts things together.
Yeah.
And when I try to do that with drums digitally, bass direct, and guitar model, I always have to overdub more guitars.
Yeah.
Always. Like one digital track is never going to fill the space. I don't know why, where I can record, even through a Fender Deluxe on 5, and it's just like, it fills up the whole fucking track.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I'll never get it.
We had a great sound guy friend of mine on our show a while back that had used to mix Marilyn Manson and Alice in Chains and Keith Urban later. And I remember him saying a couple things he said. It's like, one, when I was with Keith Urban, we had a fractal rig and an amp rig, and one was a backup to the other, and we were experimenting with it. In sound check and stuff, you could switch between them in real time, and you're like, yeah, it sounds exactly the same through the PA. He goes, we tried to use it in the show once, and he goes, the minute I switched to it, all the guitars went away. Couldn't hear them anymore. Put them up loud. Same thing I was just saying. Put them up loud. Okay, now they're too loud. Now they're not sitting. Flip back to the tube rig. Right there. Perfect. And he said the same thing. And then he said the other thing. He goes, when I came up, we used, analog consoles, and you were lucky to have a Rev 7 in the rack and an SPX 90 analog console and a box PA, right? The old school. And he goes, those you could pretty much pull the fader straight up, and if the EQs were flat and the band had a good sound to begin with, you pretty much were already there.
Yeah,
easy. Yeah. He goes, now, in order to try to get the same sound I want to hear that old box PA had with a new line array and everything else, I have to put 5 different plugins on this bus and 6 different plugins on that bus just to get it to remotely sound like it used to already with just simple stuff.
Yeah.
And he did a good job doing that. He was like one of the best sound guys I've ever heard. And, but yeah, I mean, the amount of shit he had to pile on just to make it sound right. Something's wrong here. All the technology we have, and now, I mean, I don't think PAs sound as good as they used to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I mean, they're more technologically advanced, but when I go see a show, I'm never like, yeah, that's great sounding. Never happens.
Never
happens anymore. Ever. I remember going to shows as kids, me in the 80s, seeing a rock show, seeing AC/DC in the arena fucking thing. It sounded fucking... He hit the kick drum and it was like it pounded you in the chest, like someone punched you in the chest. And it was just like, ugh. And
that was our very
dude, it sucks now.
Yeah, our very first arena tour was with AC/DC.
Oh yeah.
And I became really good friends with the sound man right away and stuff like that, so we could go sit at the board during their set. And
it was loud.
God.
Oh, they are loud.
And the greatest thing about touring with those guys, we did it twice, was they put no restrictions on us. So, we had full use of everything, and Cosmo was their light guy, and he designed our lights show for us and everything free of charge. But I would go there, and sometimes the mix was so loud, and I can't remember the sound man on the first tour, but he never moved any faders except if Brian was singing right on top of the mix, the snare would disappear. So he would pop the snare up a little bit sometime, and then when Angus would do a solo, he would like all the way, because when Angus isn't soloing, you can't even hear him in the mix because it's all that just fucking badass rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
And at the time, Angus was using an 88 preamp through a Mesa Boogie power amp. Yeah. I mean, more gain, right? So, and then the next tour, he was using a Marshall 9000 through another different Mesa thing. And then he went back to just using straight Marshalls after that. But for those tours, you could hear Angus, but you couldn't really hear him until the solo came and the sound man would jam him up. But that was really, really early digital stuff going on in the board. Like it was more like digital recall more than anything. There was no plugins and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't think that we should really discourage people from using this stuff that's available now. But I would definitely recommend, use these things sparingly, because if we're talking about guitar, nothing sounds better than just the guitar and the amp and you playing it, so the best way to get it on a recording or live is basic. Always try not to overdo things, whether they're analog or digital, I guess, but digital stuff's great, and the audience can't tell anyways. They don't give a shit.
Most people, yeah, it is true.
Well, yeah, 90% of, especially even new rock, where they're running direct and they're just slamming and everything like that. The audience is having so much fun.
Right.
They don't care what's going on up there.
It's true. It's true. No one's questioning.
No.
We're just picky.
Yeah. We're old.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're jaded, man. We're jaded.
That's true. When sound was sound and when things were good. No.
Separation was important,
Yeah.
It ain't. What is that? A new amp behind you on the underneath the fawn?
It's not new to me. It might not have been there.
I don't remember seeing that one. What is
a while back? That's a 1969 4-input Marshall that I had. That was it was almost a stripped down chassis that was in my garage forever, and has been recently rebuilt and put back into its stripped head box. It's a terrible looking amplifier, but it's cool.
It caught my eye.
Cool. I think it's a really nice looking amplifier.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you really look at it up close, it's like terrible, but I mean, for me, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet, my basket weave cabinets are so thrashed now. I'm thinking about doing the thing and just removing all the Tolex.
Well, this one a long time ago had a bad recover orange Tolex on it. It wasn't original. So at some point in time, I don't remember when, I stripped the fuck out of it. So I just ripped it all off, and it's funny. We had to take like 4 inches of dust off it. It was sitting in my garage also, forever. And like the guy that works with me, who's particularly good at basically I assembled all the parts and I had him wire it all up for me. I mean, I could do it. I just don't have time.
Right.
But he's particularly neat and good at it. So I'm just like, why don't you do it? You do an amazing job, and I just paid him. Here's some money.
So now that amp's pretty much perfect, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, the problem is, and then I tweaked it a little bit at the end, but otherwise what'll happen is projects for me will sit in the corner they just won't ever get done. They just won't. If sometimes I enlist other people to help my projects because
Oh man,
I mean, I won't do it. I just won't get to it. I mean, if there's another paying job in front of it, I'm going to do the paying job.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sit there and spend, a week of time working on this amp when I could be doing all the other things I got to do.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of amps and things, Pete, your neighbor,
Yeah.
Thorn, that guy can't get a bad sound.
No,
Oh, I know, right?
It's like, hey, I have this transistor, cigarette pack, can you knock it in for me? And you're like, oh yeah, you just do this, that. I mean,
occasionally it does happen. Occasionally he'll try something that someone sent him and he'll not do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there has been times when it's just like, no.
Yeah, I can't get anything out of it.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time not, but I mean, yeah.
I mean,
If he can't get a sound real quick and he's just like, he's not going to do it.
That makes sense because he's so in tune with his ears that he can kind of dial in anything. And
it's like often the unit will inspire you to write whatever he wrote for the video. So, like if it's like an Americana kind of amp or something, all of a sudden he's going to like, okay, oh yeah, all right, sounds like Tom Petty. Great. I know what I'm going to do. And he does a song that's sort of like Tom Petty or something.
Yeah, he's so good. I love Pete so much.
And he does it fast.
Yes.
I mean, like he'll literally, I got to do this video. I got to get it done. Well, I'll have it finished tomorrow. And like he hasn't even written anything yet.
Yeah. It's so organized in his, I'd like to see like the structure of the computer that's in his skull to see.
He's organized. He's organized in his head.
That's what I mean.
Not the rest of the stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty like, oh shit, I forgot. I got to do that video.
Yeah, he's just.
Let's hurry up and get it done.
He's a great guy. He's touring with Vai and Satriani.
Yeah. How cool is that, man?
That is cool.
That's fun.
He deserves it, man. I mean,
he does. Absolutely.
Really the right personality to hang out with those guys and the right player to hang out with those guys.
Yeah, he was asked to do it by Joe.
Yeah. So it's just like
he's gonna be a busy camper for a while.
He has been,
he does the classic rock show thing he's doing right now in England that he does every year, and then he's got something else he's doing in Japan, and then he's got onto the Sats Vai thing.
He texted me at NAMM, and I was at Soundcheck because we did a show not in NAMM but somewhere else right outside of
Yeah. We were thinking of coming to that, but then we're like after a day of NAMM, we're like,
oh man.
Oh, I don't know if I can really like.
It was past my bedtime when we went on. It was too much. He hit me up at about, I guess, 2:00, and he was already in the showroom. And he goes, "Are you here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not there. I'm over here." And he goes, "Well, I only got one day," and I go, "Well, today's not the day, I guess. If you want to come hang out at the show later." And he goes, "Well, I got jet lag. I'm going to feel like I'm in a coma at 5 p.m. And I'm like, "Oh." So I missed him again. We haven't seen each other in person in 2 years.
Wow.
Because he's been busy, or he's way busier than I am. I mean, I just make a record and go tour like, I don't know, 4 months out of the year. And he's been gone, like, which is amazing. I mean, that's the thing when you're young. You're overly busy, and then all of a sudden you're not as a guitar player. Like, I had years I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Kind of a thing. But then you get older, and like kind of your little circle of people kind of start falling away, and then you kind of get a little bit in demand again. Especially, the pandemic kind of spawned that for me. Is like all of a sudden all the studios are closed anyways, and then now people can't have people come over to do sessions. The whole email thing, and then this kind of thing really took off. And then I got really busy, and then I had a baby, and making records, living in a lockdown, with an infant in a foreign country. But I was working constantly because of, the internet and being able to do stuff and bringing more awareness that I'm alive, I guess, really.
So you were living in over Denmark.
Yeah. So our kid was born on February 12th, 2020, and the lockdown over there started right around March 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had the baby. We stayed in the hospital hotel for a week. We got to our place, which was on the roof. So it was 8 flights of stairs. So I have a newborn, a wife that's not comfortable, and 8 flights of stairs, and I smoke, right? So right out of the hospital into there. And then 1 week later, everything shut down except markets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we couldn't come back here until June. So like that was I have a picture of us on the west coast of Denmark watching the sunset. And I remember looking at the picture and thinking, I'm never going home again. Because it was so weird, being far from home in a pandemic.
Right.
And I'm watching every morning I get up and go downstairs and smoke, and I look at the statistics worldwide of, how many new cases there were, how many hospitalizations there were.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the hot spots was Heathrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept saying, hey, I should go back, because I have another son here, Jagger, who's older. And, he's like, when are you coming home? When are you coming home? And I was like, I could get a connecting flight through Heathrow. And my wife, at the time, she's like, no, don't do that. Don't go through the COVID hotspot, to get there. So, I waited all the way until I could get a connecting flight in Amsterdam. But the numbers here were insane. It was just like, wow. And in Denmark, the numbers were very low. I mean, the population's really small there. But that was just I thought I was happy, but like now I look back, that was the most depressing thing.
Yeah, sure.
It had to be rough. Yeah, be a newborn and you're stuck, and
And then my kid here, is kind of like, what's going on? And I'm like, just stay inside. We're staying inside, and we'll be there. And then still, when I started traveling back and forth, it was really easy because there was nobody at the airports, and I was allowed to travel because I was married to somebody in that country. I would be on jumbo jets with like 2 other people.
Yeah, that's weird, huh?
Yeah, get to the Bradley terminal, nobody there, and my guitar tech would pick me up, and we go home, drive through LA, and wouldn't see anybody on the streets and stuff. And at the time, when you're living through something, I think we all have this defense mechanism that kind of makes you get through anything. You know what I mean? Just like wow. Either you could have a complete mental breakdown or you can deal with it. And but at the end of it, it took a long time for me to transition from that to getting back into real life, interacting with people, touring, all that stuff. And then I realized how happy I was touring and how happy I was being able to go to fucking Gelson's or whatever. And then that reminded me, like, that was a shitty time. That was not good. That was not fun. That was, dark and just like really wild, man. Really, really wild.
Yeah, you got through it though. Yeah, thankfully we all got through it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people now, they think it's such a distant past thing. Like, like, oh yeah, there was a pandemic, huh? It's like, yeah, but there's still shit going around. So like, you can't forget about these things.
No, it might come back. You never know.
I hope not.
I hope not too. Believe me.
Yeah.
Walrus, we're not going to get political, but will tariffs make amps cost more?
Yeah. Well, look, man, tariffs will make everything cost more, not just amps.
Yeah.
And I don't, okay, yeah, we won't get political, but I don't understand what it's going to fix. You're not going to, it's only just going to cost you money. It's not hurting anyone else. It's just costing you money.
And it's not going to change the production to over here.
Nothing can be produced here anymore.
Right.
There's not an infrastructure to do it here anymore. There's not the factories or the people that were willing to work in the factories for the kind of wages that you're expecting to pay for electronic chip. I'm sorry. You know what the infrastructure for a high-end processor chip here would cost to make here? You know what you'd have to put into a factory to make those kind of things? We're talking billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars.
Especially with regulations, because I know a guy, Chris Brazil, who lived up in Seattle, and this is in the late 80s, early 90s, and he was making microchips. Mm-hmm. And the way that he had to do it here in that laboratory, it wasn't like other laboratories. Here, you have to wear a full suit, where you're what's the word? Completely germ-free.
Like hermetically sealed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it was like a serious thing, man. Like, and he made a lot of money doing that job, just making the microchips, sitting in the spacesuit all day, doing the thing. And people don't realize that the days of making 57 Chevys and 59 Les Pauls and making a profitable and low cost and labor, we don't, like you said, we don't have that infrastructure to do that here. Mm-hmm. And that's because life has moved on. Life has moved forward.
Global economy. That's what it's supposed to be.
That's right.
But the yes, when you ask, does it go up? Okay, yeah, my transformers are made here. Sure, my chassis are made here in the U.S. Most of the capacitor, well, the main capacitors I use in my amps are made actually here in the U.S.
Yeah.
But every other part in the amp comes from China or some Asian country, or maybe some of the switches are coming from Mexico, which now has a 25% tariff.
Yeah.
So, and there's no buying parts here because they don't exist.
Right.
You can't buy a resist. I mean, maybe there's a couple companies that make resistors here, but not really. It's just not. Your cell phones are going to go up. Your computers are going to go up. Your everything in your life is going to go up more. I mean, we already had a 10% tariff in China. Now there's another 10% tariff. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
But Canada, who was a free trade partner, and Mexico, who was also a free trade partner, 25% tariffs. Why? I don't understand. I can't fathom this.
Because of fentanyl?
It's not going to fix anything.
Well, I mean, if let's keep it out of politics, but what it does is that, that money flows to somewhere else, basically.
Sure.
I mean? Like, it's like the tariff money that, we all pay, we're still consumers, right? Mm-hmm. So, when we buy the product, the manufacturer's paying the tariff, but it's just all
I get passed on to you as a consumer. Sorry, it does. I mean, is it happening right now? No. Will you eat some of it for a while? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But if it becomes to a point where you have to raise prices, you have to raise prices. I mean, it's terrible. Or you're going to start trading with try to trade with another country.
Yeah.
It doesn't have tariffs yet.
Yeah, I don't see how this all plays out, because I mean the tariff thing starts tomorrow, and I think that's why he asked the question.
It already. So I actually went to buy something today that just these Amphenol 1/4-inch ends I wanted to use, and the place I was trying to buy it from, even though it said it was in stock here in the U.S., we're going to charge a $75 tariff on my bill.
Wow.
$75 tariff on a bill that was $300 or something.
Yeah.
So on top of that, so then it was with tax and everything, it was like $425. I'm like going, $75, Jesus.
So what'd you
I
do?
didn't buy them.
You didn't buy them.
I didn't buy them, and I bought them somewhere else.
Yeah,
wasn't going to charge me that tariff today.
I mean, I think that's a great example of what we're being presented with. Well, you're going to see that tariff, and then you're not going to buy from the other country. You're going to try to get it here, but we're not manufacturing everything here.
Well, the interesting thing is what's happening is then what actually until the tariffs on Mexico, there were some Chinese companies that were setting up factories in Mexico.
Yeah.
To manufacture things. And in turn also some Chinese companies have gone to Malaysia to manufacture to open up another division to manufacture so they could ship out of Malaysia instead of ship out of China.
Right.
It's like everyone's going to get around everything somehow, but
well, I think you said something that's interesting earlier is Bobby Smith makes my amps, my RJS amps.
Yeah.
And when we made the first one, I think, because he does the same kind of thing you do, tries to stay within our stuff, good stuff. And that first amp was built in 2018. And I think his cost on the parts and everything was like right around, I want to say $1,300. And then the new amp that I just had him build, it was $1,900. For the, he doesn't use Mercury's, he uses something else.
Haymore.
They were expensive, man. That shit's getting expensive. But just because something goes up in price here, that reflects.
Well, here's an interesting thing. So I talked to my metal guy that makes chassis and stuff, right? So I'm like, so does your steel that you use come from the US? He goes, what does that mean exactly? He goes, let me explain something to you about metal. He goes, so like when you had like the Twin Towers fell and everything, there was all this steel and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was scrapped to China.
Yeah.
Where they make ingot, which is what they use to make steel with.
Mm-hmm.
So they take our scrap, they make the ingot, and then they sell it back to us to make the steel. He goes,
yeah.
Chinese steel, this steel, I don't know. I don't know which is what anymore. I can't tell you.
Well,
and I go, wait a minute. So we're taking our steel.
Yeah.
And we're shipping and we're selling it to them. And then they're making the ingot and then selling it back to us.
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid.
Well,
why don't we just make the ingot?
Right. That's the problem. But we probably can't
we don't have the
environmental we don't have the infrastructure.
Yeah, right. We just don't have it. But here's one thing that nobody really understood. When there was the lockdown, all the shipping lanes were closed. That's proof of how reliant we are on import, because that's when steel and wood and any building
went through the roof.
It went through the roof, so that's what I mean. People forget, like, oh, right, that happened. And I was trying to build a house and I didn't because prices were, astronomical. And, it just kind of never ends. I know in Denmark, they don't have Amazon. Like we don't have a lot of the luxuries that we have here, because they like to keep, they're able to keep things running in their country efficiently. I mean, they grow potatoes and they have a lot of pigs and number one in the world in windmills. That's what Denmark makes, and Lego.
Right.
But a lot of your friends, a lot of people that we know, TC Electronics, T-Rex, which I think is out of business, but Roku, UA, all those companies are within 2 miles of my apartment over there. So it's like a really a lot of good engineers there because everybody goes to school. Everybody gets a free ride to university, and these engineers know what they're doing. And so you have a lot of, stuff. And interesting, when they send their stuff here, there's no tariffs. There never has been. But when we send stuff there, there is. Like they have tariffs. You know? But they're so far ahead on that side of the ball that that cost doesn't get onto the consumer. You know, it's like, hey, you bought something from over there. What is it? Okay, we're going to pay. It's a VAT, you know, whatever that is.
Right, exactly.
Sure, import.
And, you know, so like a lot of things that are going on here really could be prevented just by going and looking at older civilizations that are, you know, more efficient and just as free, you know, just as happy, you know, just as, you know, but we're, you know, but we have to have our own way. It has to be the American way. And not even sure what that is anymore, you know, but for guys like us, we got our jobs that we do. And so we just got to make sure we're looking out for other people that aren't set in stone, that aren't, you know, living the dream that we're very fortunate to have our lifestyle, what we've done.
Sure.
You know, it's you know, I go down into the city and like you were talking about, you know, people telling you all about themselves. Just if I go in to get a sandwich or something, it's always people now talking about this and like, man, you know, I'm working at Starbucks and the shoe store and like, I can't pay my bills. And I'm just like damn.
Yeah. Well, we're also in LA. I mean, you know,
absolutely.
Not exactly the, and now, Jesus, I don't even know what's happening to rents and things after the fires and everything. It's terrible, but, yeah, I mean, it's expensive. I mean, most people I tell what I rent a house here still, because I used to own a house here, but I sold it years ago now. And now it's like, there's no way I'm going to buy a house. Are you fucking kidding me? Nope. Stupid money. I'll be dead before it's paid for, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, I would sell this, except where am I going to go? You know, like I don't, you know, my houses were inherited. So it's like I pay tax from 1955 on the property because the family never changed, right?
Wow.
So I could do really well on this house.
Oh yeah, you're in LA. You're in LA. You could do. There's millions of dollars involved.
Yeah, but then what? But then where do I go?
Where are you going?
Right. And then I got to pay property tax, which will be
three times as much.
Yeah. 3 times, you know. Well,
maybe more.
More because you know you pay 1%. So like on both houses, the property tax is $900 a year.
Oh God.
It's 1955 for real, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I have a great family, you know. But if I sold this, let's say I got 1.5 for this, and I go out and I buy something for 1.5, well then I got to pay 1% of that a year. Yeah. So now the 900 is like per month instead of per year.
Yeah.
Plus insurance, plus.
Yeah, hell no. Don't ever go anywhere.
No, you
exactly.
Stay where you're at.
I have these dreams. I'm going to sell this and I'm going to move into the middle of the country and have a tree. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so stupid.
Well, you could have a cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, there's so many other places to live, but there's nowhere like here.
No.
You know, LA, I don't care what anybody says, man. This is the greatest place on this planet. You know, and yeah, we have fires, we have earthquakes, you know, we have, but we have the rainbow, we have the whiskey, we have, you know, home goods, and
the beach,
and the beach,
and Lusso and Frank's.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, let's go.
I'm actually going next week.
I want an invite if it's possible because that's my.
Oh, maybe you can come with us. I see what we can do.
Let me know because I live right up the street.
Yeah, let me see what I can do. I would say yes as long as I can change the reservation.
Yeah, that's always the thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have the thing. Me and Pete have been trying to go there for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I go there kind of on the regular, so I'll definitely go with you.
Yeah. Oh man, I haven't been in a while. Yeah,
I love that place.
I always get the wedge. The wedge.
Oh yeah, the wedge salad. I get a little steak tartare and then a ribeye.
Oh, nice.
Can't go wrong.
We
Never
are
can
so,
go wrong with the ribeye.
we are so in our 50s. Yes,
This is important.
it is.
Oh, and a martini.
Oh, here we go.
Shotgun Rebels. What's up, Tracii? What's your favorite Jimmy Page riff?
All of them. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how do you? I don't know. I mean, I think I play the Wanton song more than any other one when I do.
Oh, I love that song.
Mm.
You know, like Big Cat.
Man, I had a friend that is now deceased that used to do that song in his cover band, and he would do it and sing it so fucking well. And every time it came on, it was just like, oh God, yes. When he would play it, it was just like
when it's done right. When
Yeah.
you walk in and a guy's playing some Jimmy Page shit right, it's like it's unmistakably better than everything else. It's like, my God, with that shitty guitar sound, with you know, that sloppy playing, it's still better. It's just better.
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
I don't know why.
Oh, I got to see the movie. I got to go see this movie.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
I got to go pick an IMAX and I'm gonna fucking go.
one thing a couple things I want to drop in. Echo Park made me a new guitar that actually, I don't think he made it for me, but he ended up making it for me. This guitar called Clarence. It's got my pickups in it. It is the sickest guitar. You know, it's got a what is it? Koa top, chambered body, telly style, with the humbuckers, and he put a tone knob in. That's not a tone knob, and what it does is it takes a neck pickup and you can kind of blend the single to double coils. And I've never had a guitar that did that before. And I got to give props to Wilkinson because it's got a Wilkinson tremolo on it.
Oh, those are great.
He's in tune.
There you go.
It's amazing. I love that guitar. And then I've got a limited run of FU tone guitars coming out very soon. There's only 12. There's only 12 of the guitars. So that's coming. New LA Guns record, obviously. That's April 4th. And I just wanted to make sure I got my shit out of the way really quick.
When's the album coming out? You said April 4th?
April 4th. And then, of course, the new pickups and the bare knuckle, and those will come out around the same time, too.
Oh, cool.
So fun stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
Busy.
Dean McCaskill, what's going on? Hey, Dave, just bought a Gel 20 the other day. Just cranked it for the first time through my 2x12 V30 literally 5 minutes ago. Glorious.
Nice.
Awesome, man.
It's a great amp. It's a great amp.
Good. You should tell us the story how you started your crazy career.
Who, me?
Yeah.
This guy?
Yeah, you. No, him.
I grew up here, you know, so it was kind of like, I think when you grow up here, you're just so stupid because it's all around you happening all the time that, you know, I started playing when I was 6. And, you know, by the time I was in junior high school, I had a band. I had met Slash, and he was putting a band together. Actually, we met before junior high school. Because we had the same girlfriends when we were 11. They were best friends, our girlfriends.
Oh, okay.
That's how we met. And then we ended up going to Bancroft Junior High together. And that's all we talked about. You know, it was Jimmy Page, Joe Perry, and Alex Lifeson, pretty much. You know, of course, Sabbath, of course, you know, whoever. But for 3 years before we even got to high school, we were in guitar ensemble. We had what I would call then a healthy rivalry because we were just trying to learn as much as we could at that time. And we had each other to bounce everything off of. And 2 other guitarists too, a guy named Philip Davidson and Marlon Meffrauser. They were amazing guitar players. And they just kind of, they didn't have the same drive, I guess, or the same whatever. But I really grew up believing that was the only path, you know? And so we had our little bands, and then Slash joined Hollywood Rose for a minute, which was Izzy and Axl's band. And then that's when I met Izzy. and then Izzy moved in to my house with my mom, and then I had my high school band, which was called Pyrus at the time, some Greek god thing. And then I changed the name to LA Guns, when I was like 15 or 16, really young. And then so we had these two bands, and Slash was in that band and I was in LA Guns. And then Slash joined Black Sheep. And then Hollywood Rose was kind of a weird thing for a minute. And then my singer for LA Guns, the guy I went to high school with, this guy, Mike Jagos, my manager fired him. And I asked Axel, I go, hey, you want to sing for LA Guns? And he said, yeah. And so it was just kind of like this constant, like just like one brick at a time kind of a thing, where, all the bands were really good and we weren't as metal as everybody else, but we weren't as bluesy as the other side. You know what I mean? It's kind of this middle ground where, let's say Izzy was really into the Stones and I was really into Van Halen, like for example, and Aerosmith and Ozzy. Okay, then you have Axel, who's like really into Dan McCafferty from Nazareth and Angry Anderson from Rose Tattoo, and but with all the really great rock and roll sensibilities. So the three of us made a lot of plans. You know what I mean? Like we had no idea that anything was going to really happen, but we never stopped making plans. It was always like, we got these gigs, we're going to do this. And it just happened, and I think that because early on we were able to have a really good circle of people and fans right away, that we had no reason to believe that something good wasn't going to happen. So by the time I left Guns N' Roses, which was really depressing because I loved the band, but things were getting that was not for me at that point. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Too much weird.
Well, I grew up in a drug culture. They didn't.
Yeah.
So they were embracing drug culture all of a sudden. And it's just like, I already had dead friends. They didn't have dead friends yet.
Gotcha.
I was like, oh man, this is weird. Fuck. So I didn't know what I was going to do. Right. So I leave, but I had all these LA Guns posters because there was no LA Guns anymore. Right. So I had told this guy, Nicky Beat, who was the drummer in LA Guns after Guns N' Roses, when I put the band back together. He auditioned for Guns N' Roses when we got Steven Adler. And I told him, I go, if I'm ever not in this band, I want to be in a band with you. Because he's like old OG punk rock guy. He was in the Weirdos and the Germs and stuff. Really, really cool guy. So I leave the band. I call Nicky. Hey, okay, I'm not in that band. Let's go. And it went off right away. It was just like this continuous, kind of thing. And by the time it all happened, there were pitfalls for sure. There were barricades and there were things to climb over. But in the end, I just was stupid enough to believe in myself and believe in the band. And I'm fucking 59 years old, man. I'm putting a record out called Leopard Skin and going on tour. It's like right on.
Exactly.
It's like cool.
Exactly. Living the dream, man.
Living the dream, and all my kids aren't starving and they got roofs over their heads and everybody's happy and I get to play guitar still. I'm still believing it.
Are you still in touch with those guys? Or do you still talk to any of the guys?
No, it's been, I did for a long time. And then you get old and you become an adult. And then, it's not just them. I don't really talk to anybody.
Right. Life just gets in the way. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's like, I have an amazing girlfriend and two amazing mothers that have my children. And I love everybody. And that's enough. That's enough people.
You got enough. Exactly. Enough to deal with.
Well, it's a happy place. It's productive. Christmases are insane because.
So the baby you just had, you're not with her anymore.
No. They're in Denmark.
Oh, okay.
And he's going to be 5 this February. So I haven't seen him in person in 2 years. It's been like a FaceTime relationship for the last 2 years. But they're supposed to come here soon. But everything's cool, man. You know, I'm a lucky motherfucker.
That's awesome. Let's see. Walrus. Dave, for your amps that don't have a response knob, where is the response set in those amps?
Man, that's impossible to say because like they all have different feedback resistors. So I mean, it just depends on the amp. I mean,
so do you adjust that before you okay an amp? Like, you know, you go, okay.
You adjust everything before you okay an amp. You know, you sit there and agonize over it over and over and over again. And then you're like, okay, it's done. At some point in time, you go, it's done. Maybe.
But it's never a finite.
And then you revisit it later going, man, maybe I can make it better. And then you start trying to make it better. And then you realize what you had was great. So just leave it alone.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of electricity, nothing's ever finite, right? Like, you know, you adjust one amp and it's here, you adjust another amp and it's like, oh, you know, I know what I'm trying to achieve, but
right with its tolerances and
variances.
I
mean, I don't know. I mean, it's I mean, at this point, I design the amps on paper.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I mean, like at this point, I've done so many amps, I know what it's going to sound like before I even do it.
That's amazing.
And I know it'll work, or I know it'll, you know, this will be fine. I think this will be cool. And then generally you do it and you're like, yeah, that is cool. Okay. Wait, let's tweak it a little bit more. Okay, done.
I have a question related kind of to this question. So when you get, you know, 2203, 2204, one of your amps, and you have the basic EQ, you know, you have presence, you have mid, bass, and treble. Where are those zeroed out, and are they boosts or are they cuts, and what are the values of those four?
Where are they zeroed out? That's really a weird thing. So where are they flat?
Yeah, where are they flat?
It's really odd. It's generally, believe it or not, it's generally like on the treble, it's generally off. Actually, there's something called a tone stack calculator, and you can actually see what effect it has if you turn the knobs, and you can see when it's close to flat. Off the top of my head, I don't really remember what that was exactly.
Right. But like, let's say you start, you know, and everything.
A lot of the EQs are cuts, really, in some respects, but if flat really, it's all relative. Flat really isn't everything on 10 either. So. But at some point in time, it is flat because you're square waving the power amp at that point. And once it's a square wave, well, those don't do anything anymore. It's a flat curve anyway. It's square.
Right. So like, let's say you disconnected the EQs pots, and what does the amp sound like? And then
if you did that, you'd have a lot more gain, actually.
Okay.
So because the EQ actually drags it down, so to speak.
Right.
You couldn't really do that, have it sound great. It's it could show you better on a tone stack calculator on what it is, but you know,
but like, let's say a treble knob, is that just like is it a 2K pot, and then you just go more 2K, less 2K? Like, how does that work?
It is generally at a certain kind of a rough frequency, but they kind of overlap each other a lot. So it's not really like a normal like parametric EQ where you can go, hey, narrow bandwidth and like poke at 2K. It's pretty broad in what they do. So you're not just putting up one frequency and boosting it, so to speak.
Okay.
And different amps will have different responses depending on you'll EQ them differently depending on how much bass response, say, they have in the front end. Maybe it's like a JTM 45, for instance, is really bassy and loose and farty almost, right? You're going to turn, if you're going to crank that up, you're going to turn the bass off.
Yeah.
You're going to turn the presence up high, the treble up high, and the mids up high.
Right.
Real high, maybe on 10.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe it's still too bassy.
Yeah, no, I've been there. You know, I mean, and sometimes that happens with like a Fender Deluxe does the same thing. It's like you
got to turn the bass almost off. Yeah.
but it's still too much. Like it's just the way that things work. But I'm really curious about the old 50s Tweed Deluxes. I've never had one, but I understand.
I find those really loose.
Are they loose?
Yeah, they're kind of loose. Well, first of all, don't ever gain them up too much. Yeah. Get them where they're just kind of crunchy, maybe like 6 on the thing, not too much, but they're kind of loose still. It's a different thing. It's like a weird. I'm not a big Tweed Deluxe guy. I do like a Tweed Bassman. But which is more Marshall. But a Tweed Deluxe is. I mean, I prefer a Deluxe Reverb, like a Blackface, like later.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna pick one up.
It can be great. You got to listen to one and just like decide. You know what I mean? And often Tweed Deluxes have the wrong input tube. Someone's put a 12AX7 in it. Originally, it had a 12AY7, which is way less gain. And if you have an AY7 in it, it's going to be less gain, and it's less farty and less, because it's not like, because on 10 it just sounds like it's just overloading fuzz tone.
Okay.
It doesn't sound great. It's just maybe 5-6-ish, then it's starting to be cool. 7, okay, maybe still 8, too much. Back it down a little bit.
Yeah. Because I have
it can be cool. I mean, you got to get the right one. It's got to sound right, but take a listen and see.
I have a Silverface reissue with a basement channel in it. The normal channel is a basement circuit, only 18 watts or whatever. And it's like, if I plug it into any other speaker, it sounds fucking great. But on its own, it's just like, what is this amp? I can never get it. And then I was talking to somebody and they go, oh, you need a Tweed one, man. Like, they're just such a different animal. And
it is a different animal.
And what he had said was that if you put like a greenback in a Tweed, that it really happens. And it's like,
even if you put a greenback in that Deluxe you have too, it's better too.
It would make a big difference.
Yeah, I don't really care for like the Eminence speakers or whatever they were using, Jensen, or depends on like what year amp it is and what amp we're talking about exactly. But
I'm trying to think. I have one. Oh, you know what amp I have that sounds fucking killer with the original speakers? It's a Silvertone.
Oh, those are great.
Like, what are those speakers? Like, they look like.
Is it a 610 cabinet?
No, it's the 212.
I think, though, I know in the 610 cabinets they were Jensen's. It might be a Jensen type speaker.
I think they are Jensen's.
I think so.
They are. They're the original speakers.
But those Silvertone heads sound amazing. Crank them up and crunchy and cool, and they're great.
And loud.
They're
really,
great.
Really loud. But it's such a funny amp because it's so crappy at the same time. So crappy.
But in a good crappy way.
Oh, in a good crappy way. But it's like, none of the felt is chipped off anywhere yet. It's like the grill's hanging in there, the reverb.
Yeah, those are cool.
And I've always been curious, like, why did those Jensens sound good in that speaker? But in every Fender I own, I cannot stand the sound of those speakers. And I always just thought it was the amps.
Well, it can be the amps, but I mean, but no, but I mean, like this. Yeah, you're right. That's a good question. I don't have that answer.
Yeah. I mean, it's just more of me going in the studio with my. Ask Pete about my studio. It's just like his, except everything's on the floor. Like tools, cables, pedals, amps, tubes.
Everything's all over the floor.
Yeah, I just work in a circle of parts.
There you go.
All the time. But hobby. Guitars, that's a hobby for me.
Wow.
How do you Booma Benz, how do you even know about this amp? The amp doesn't even exist yet, so I'm not going to give a quick spec rundown on it because it doesn't actually physically exist in the real realm yet.
You did talk about it though.
It is a 20-watt amp, and it will have basically 3 sounds in it.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, it'll have a clean channel, a dirty channel that you can select between a lower gain dirty channel or a higher gain dirty channel, and then it'll have a boost. There you go. A boost as in a volume and a boost amount,
like a solo
kind of like we do on the RX.
So what's your favorite, like if you were going to use an amp all the time and you could only have one Dave Friedman amp, what is the best, what's your amp?
Of ones I make or ones that I own?
The ones that you make. Like, you know, like,
man, see, that's so hard.
No, it's not. You know,
it's kind of hard. I mean, probably the Plex.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
a copy of my original.
That's the one I have to check out.
It's a copy of my original Plexi 50 that I own. So I really love that amp. But it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. I like a lot of the other ones too. Depends on what you were kind of going for. I mean, to be honest, this new Jose I built's fucking ripping good.
Yeah.
It is really good. And maybe I'd say that one too, if you wanted a slightly different flavor, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
But I think people, you know, they like to know what, like, you know, you really sink your teeth into, because, you know, you have a great ear. So it's like, you know, I have a bunch of your pedals and I played through a couple of your different amps, and like they all do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know? So you know, that means that your taste is in line with what I expect, right?
Yeah.
And
you probably love the Plex.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, I had some.
We'll be just cranking it Eddie Van Halen style.
Yeah, man, that's
the way to do it.
It really is. And what about, you know, now that I have you, like, so how do you do that at a lower volume? I'm not saying, you know, 50 watt, but like, because the 50 watts almost just as loud. I have 50 watt Plexis too, and they're still too loud for practical purposes. So how do you get a Plexi sound that's like?
Well, I mean, this is the problem. I mean, I did put a master on it that works pretty well, but it's not quite the same as cranking it on 10.
But could you
get pretty well?
Like, could you get a baked potato volume Plexi? Like, could you? Is that a reality?
I don't know, man. I've seen some people at baked potato play so fucking loud, it's unbelievable. So,
yeah, but then that.
Could you? Yeah, sure. You should buy a Fryette power station.
No.
And then put the Plexi into the power station.
I'm not doing that ever.
It's great.
No.
Yeah. Why? Why wouldn't you do it?
I mean,
too much. Just too much.
No, then you can add delay in the power station.
I know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that's what people do, you know, and I think it's awesome. I kind of do that by running through my fax returns with the, you know, kind of do that. But I'm talking about, I want an amp that I walk into anywhere and it just sounds like.
Well, then you should get one of the other amps I make that do that very well at low volumes.
The BE100.
Or maybe even a small box that I make. That's a great amp. Like Sam's got a small box. Yeah.
Yeah, he loves that thing.
I tweaked it specifically for him recently.
Yeah.
I mean, like he had a thing he wanted exactly, and he came in here and we just sat there until we got what he wanted. Whether it's exactly what I want, maybe not, but it's exactly what he wanted, and it worked really well with him, his playing and his guitar.
Yeah, he's
a great guitar player.
Who's this?
So good.
Sam Colton. Bam Colton.
And he tends to really live within that really warm mid-range sound.
Yeah.
You know, but not as much gain as I do. Because he comes over here a lot. You know, we bounce back and forth up here. And you know, he had a problem with the amp and he didn't want to tell you. And I go, Sam, you gotta tell him. He's gonna, you know, he likes you. You know, you're gonna go in and you guys are gonna talk about it and he's gonna get it right. And he goes, I go, I'll call him for you. And oh no, I'll call him. And like a week went by. Did you call Dave? He goes, no, not yet. I don't want him to get mad at me. That's how sweet he is.
You get mad at him?
That's how sweet he is.
So how that worked essentially is I loaned him an amp.
Right, exactly.
When his amp went down, and he said I love that amp. That was great.
Yeah.
Then I made his amp exactly like that amp, and then he didn't like it.
Right.
And then I'm like, but it was the same as the one you borrowed.
Yeah.
And then we even A beat it later, and I go, see, it's the same. He goes, yeah, but I want it different. And then, okay, that's fine. Just tell me what you want. Let's tweak it. And then we tweaked it, and he said he really likes it now. So
he really, I'm sure he's watching us right now too.
Yeah.
I'm in, Sam.
Yeah.
He's shy. But but yeah, you know, he
no,
likes
I love the interaction. Like I like interaction with guitar players and artists and things because that's fun. I mean, it's like, oh, what do you want with your hands? Because everyone's set of hands sound completely different. I mean, you know, it's like the old thing where, you know, someone came up to Eddie Van Halen's rig and played through his rig, and well, they didn't sound like Eddie Van Halen anymore. They didn't. In fact, they couldn't even control it.
Right. Exactly. I remember this is really.
There's kind of a lost art with the volume knob that people have forgotten, by the way.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real, you know, beginning of guitar through 1982. People still controlled the whole thing with the volume knob. But this is funny. Eddie said this to me one time, and I don't think it was with the Plexis. I think he had just gotten like the second version of whoever made his head first.
5150, yeah, Peavy.
Peavy. Yeah. And I'm up there, and he plays something. He goes, check this out. And I played it. I don't know what I played. I played Running with the Devil or something. And he goes, don't spoof on me at my own house. Like what? And he goes, I liked when you played Ain't Talking About Love at the studio. That was cool. But we're at my house, you know, just, you know, play some Jimmy Page. You know, he's such a cool motherfucker, man. I miss him so much. But yeah, he talk about hands, right? You know, so I play an Eddie Van Halen lick out of his new amp because it's like, well, do I sound like Eddie?
Right.
No, I sound like me. But yeah, he was very aware of what he did in his sound, and kind of, I mean, that's why he never was asking questions about boutique amps and, oh, I need a 59 Les Paul. I mean, he had those things, but he didn't really care about those things. You know, he really cared about what he was doing. You know, he really cared about, like, hey, you know, I want this. As a matter of fact, you know, I got home from somewhere and he's on the machine. Hey, you know, call me right away. I called him. He goes, I'm here with Biff from the Westwood One truck, and we're listening to this live LA Guns mix, and Biff doesn't remember what you did to the guitar. I'm like, I remember. I'll be right up. I come up. What had happened was I used to run just, you know, stereo chorus, kind of like more like the Randy Rhoads way, you know, just like stereo chorus, but it was just a CE3. So one side was dry and then one side was chorus. So on the recording, what had happened is the chorus track, the microphone was dead when they did the recording. So when I went in to mix it, we came up with a solution. We recorded that track onto another track. So the dry track we just duplicated, and we put a harmonizer on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Biff couldn't remember what we did because we had always talked about a chorus pedal. And so they were doing, this wasn't Live Without a Net. This was the next live record, whatever that was, the Sammy. And so Biff goes, oh, right. And they threw up a harmonizer on just a dry guitar track, and they just busted to another track. Came up, and he just looked, he goes, that's fantastic. like fuck yeah, man, that's Eddie Van. I mean, he's really down to earth and funny and serious, and you know, I really, like I said, I really miss him. I think everybody really misses that guy.
Oh yeah, I do.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
but he definitely was.
He had his demons, that's for sure. But
well, everybody's got something.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't say it wasn't funny playing golf with him and we'd only make it 9 holes. You know what I mean? Because, you know, 1 beer every 2 holes. You know, that was kind of his thing. And then he'd have to have a cigarette, and I did too. And we'd be like, that was enough. Let's go. You know, but he's full of love. You know, I mean,
oh yeah,
definitely full of love, and really cared about what he did on the guitar. You know, he really, that was his,
sure, absolutely.
And Yeah, so many funny Eddie stories, but we'll leave it at that.
Oh, that's awesome. We miss him. And this is the same question, Aravello. You asked the same question as above about the new 20-watt amp, and Dave explained.
Well, here's what I'll say. If you want something that will be more versatile than that amp that you have, then you're probably going to love this amp.
Definitely more versatile. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the voicing of this new amp? Is it British?
Yeah, of course. I don't do anything else.
Well, it's the Phil X thing, right?
No, this is going to be a different circuit. This isn't his old amp at all.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So this is going to be a little different. So
I gotta say this about Phil
cool.
X. He might not be the best guitar player, but nobody's as good as him. Phil X, man, that guy is mind blowing. I love him.
He's great.
Yeah, man, he does some stuff sometimes. He came in our booth and sat down for a while and played through that Jose amp, and of course, I go, well, of course you got to play some Van Halen, and then he started down this rabbit hole of Van Halen through the rig, and dude, he did some stuff. I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
this is like, yeah,
like he can sound like Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. I knew he could. And so he goes, he just started playing a medley of
wow,
but it's like some cool riffs that you don't hear that often and stuff. And it was like, oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah. I mean, so
then he did a couple of his own weird, like
he pulls
I don't even know those
riffs
that he does so bizarre. I don't even know how to explain them.
Yeah, I mean that's just, we were talking about when I was having my existential breakdown on the phone with Vi. We brought up Phil, and we both agreed that he's probably the most fun, great guitar player right now.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Everybody loves Phil.
Yeah,
great personality too.
Yeah.
And he comes
good guy.
Yeah, comes through his playing. Peter Lasis, what's up, man? Tracii Guns. Love your tone and playing. Can you share what gear, guitars, amps, speakers, mics you were using when you recorded Never Enough? I had a feeling it wasn't the Strat you used in the video. Thanks.
It was the guitar was a BC Rich Dan Electro neck through that I had them build me. So it was like a really heavy alder body with a maple, neck, ebony with a maple top. So it's like a Les Paul that looked like a DC whatever, like Jimmy Page's guitar, with a Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge with a Floyd. And then, but that was something interesting happened during that record. A company called Kasha came down, and I had my JCM 800s, the 1987 ones. They had effects loops in them. Like it was a weird thing. And they're single channel JCM 800s. And the only reason I remember that, because I didn't even know what an effects loop was back then, but the Kasha guys came down and they had a preamp, and they ran the preamp through the effects return way back then. And they said, now try your amp. We plugged into that first.
The first rock mods.
It was. Yeah. And it was a little bit more, little gainier, obviously, and stuff like that. So that's really the sound of most of that record, because once they set it up, I just kind of left it there. And there's something we didn't touch on, is when you're in the studio recording heavy rock stuff, you never use as much gain as you do live.
Oh no.
And people don't really realize that. So when you're back then, I would try to use the SD1 in the studio to be comfortable, but it always sounded like, coming back. So I never really used the mod in the studio. So the Kasha was nice because it gave it just a little bit more. And so that was it. It's the vintage 30 speakers, stock JCM 800, but with the Kasha preamp and the Seymour Duncan JB pickup. So it's as simple as that. But microphones, we always used a Royer ribbon and a 57. We didn't use the AKG. We used a Royer. So it was a ribbon and a 57. And we had a room mic set up, but I think with LA Guns, we never used the room mic.
That's great info.
It's fun stuff. I mean, and the reason was with the room mic is I would use my own delay in the front. So it's like a short, not slapback, but like, I don't know, 250 milliseconds kind of under there. And so with a room mic and that delay, we had interference all the time. So we just never used it in the mix.
Right. Harmonicaster. Sorry. Dave, I'm in the middle of Bruce's amp class. Why do you think all the best regarded amps have been designed by self-taught guys, not engineers?
A lot of engineers aren't guitar players.
Well, Leo Fender, right?
I mean, a lot of engineers just aren't guitar players, and they don't quite look here. I don't understand how you can design. You can, I guess, theoretically design an amp, but how do you know what it sounds like? I mean, I mean, if you can't play it and feel it, how do you know? I can't understand that. It would be like making music when you're deaf,
right?
I mean, how do you make music when you're deaf? I don't know. Maybe it's possible, but I don't know. There's just a thing. They might be able to make it. Generally speaking, an engineer can make a functioning amp that works well, but it just is probably missing something. Generally,
the spice.
Yeah, the thing that you can't quite put into words.
But there are exceptions like Leo Fender, right?
Yeah.
Well, sure, but Leo got kind of lucky. You know what I mean? Like, I think, the amps and stuff. I mean, like, he had someone that designed. I mean, he didn't necessarily design the amp. And
he was a radio repair guy anyway.
I mean, it was a kind of a clean amp,
Right.
And it's like a lot of that stuff came originally from the RCA tube manual.
Right.
Like even the Fender Bassman was directly out of the RCA tube manual. So that's where that came from. And then the other stuff, I don't even know where he got it from, but I mean, I guess, but everything was designed to be clean then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can line up 5 clean amps, and do they all sound that much different? Probably not really.
Not
that one's a little brighter. That one's a little darker. That one's a little fatter. That one's a little, but
yeah.
I mean, I can't really tell.
I thought Paul Rivera did a pretty good job when he came in for a minute.
Yeah.
Some of those amps sounded really good. When we toured with Nugent, he had a Rivera amp. I don't know if it was pre-Fender or after Fender, but he had just a Rivera that he was using live with Howard Roberts. It sounded great. No, really good.
Oh yeah, Rivera made some good stuff. Bent Tom, if they do a Van Hager retrospective, I'm 1000% sure that Tracii will be asked to play Sammy. Spot on has a younger Sammy Hagar look.
I like the dark version, right? Like, I get that a lot. A lot of people think that I look.
Yeah, the darker version. You'll have to grow the hair out more, though. Again.
Yeah.
yeah. Look, some curls and.
That's why my hair is either long or short, because it takes me.
The in between is terrible.
Oh my god, it's so nappy. And I saw some pictures of me earlier today, actually from like 4 or 5 years ago, where I let my hair grow, and it looks cool, man. But I can't sit through that waiting period again.
That sucks. That period.
Well, when you're 59, your hair just is slower than watching, grass grow.
Yeah. Mr. Anderson, what's up? Hey guys, couldn't watch from the start, a bit busy. Dave, the Jose looks amazing. I'm ready to place an order. Maybe I'll call you tomorrow to discuss. Tracii, all the best to you, man. God bless you.
Well, I'll save you the call. We haven't announced how to get on the waiting list yet, so don't even bother. We'll announce that, and everyone will know about it when we announce it, and then you can get on the list, and then you'll be emailed when they go live on their website. So that's the story. And I mean, it wouldn't go live for at least 3 months. Probably we have to get them into production, which is a whole task. I mean, I literally finished the amp 4 days before NAMM.
Wow.
So
wow. See, but it's good to be loved, Dave. See,
yeah, and it's crazy how many people are emailing me about this amp. I mean, I've never seen this to the extent this is.
Yeah,
what happened with the Phil X? That was supposed to happen.
There was a problem with a PC board that we did for it, and by the time I got the replacement ones, it just wasn't enough time to really make it right. So, and I wasn't going to kill myself, to try to do it. So we just opted for a later release.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. Michael Gollinger, what's up? Don't see your question, Michael. So, thank you.
It's an invisible ink. Just rub your mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the same guy, Michael Gollinger?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the same dude?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Phil is a great dude. He stopped at our booth and just shot the shit for about fuzz pedals with it. Yeah, Phil's a great dude.
Cool.
100%.
Well, I wonder which company you work for, Michael.
Yeah, do tell.
I don't know.
Do tell.
Someone wrote Dark Sammy.
Dark Sammy, yeah.
That's too funny. Let's see. Oh, here's a question. Hey, Dave, I had a chance to play through the Jose at NAMM, and I have to say, I may like it better than my small box. Hope you enjoyed the tequila I dropped off. It's my personal fave.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I remember you now.
Tequila? Now I remember.
I know. You made me feel better.
That's too funny. The way to Dave's heart. That's funny.
Dave's liver.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, by the way, I wanted to bring up before we wrap up the show, also John Sykes. Any comments? I know, Dave, you worked with him.
It's sad.
Yeah,
I had no idea he was sick.
No,
you wouldn't have known. I saw him. I saw him end of October. Literally,
really?
No. He looked as healthy as he ever did.
Really?
I mean, I've never seen him look unhealthy. I mean, he looked like a virile English guy that's going to kick your ass. That's what he looked like. Always. He was a big guy, strong, like you wouldn't think for a second.
Huh. Things like that they take me such by surprise, especially in this case, because like you said,
he didn't tell anyone.
Sykes, last time you see him, he looks great.
I was just texting with him in December too. I mean, I did a bunch of work for him and stuff, a bunch of amp. I mean, I just had finished a few amps right then in October. I mean, you wouldn't have known anything. Yeah, it's too bad. He told some of the best stories I have ever heard from anyone.
Really?
Some of his things, oh God, he told me an amazing story when he auditioned for Ozzy once. And I can't even do it justice to talk about it, but it involved Ozzy being wasted out of his gourd, pissing all over the studio and doing all this stuff. And, it told by him, it was hilarious. I mean, it was funny. We were just dying.
Well, that would have been a good man. I always thought that Sykes would have been the guy. You know what I mean? Because
they actually offered him the gig, but right? By that time he'd gone, no, I went with Thin Lizzy. Sorry, too bad.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, they put it as he had some demands that they weren't willing to meet, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah. No,
but I don't think he wanted anything to do with it after his experience, basically.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right. Just too
too raw.
Too much. I can't deal,
Yeah, I heard a lot of, I played with Rudy for a year. We had a band together, Rudy Sarzo, and he really embraces the experience he had with Ozzy and the whole Randy thing, and blah. But but he said that, to say the least, that Ozzy and Sharon were very entertaining, and it wasn't just Ozzy. Sharon.
Oh yeah,
you got to the shenanigans too. They had it was a very specific lifestyle that was going on in that camp. And Rudy, he survived it. That's what he says. I survived.
It was terrible because at NAMM, so he used to come a lot with his son James, whose same name is John, James John Jr. or whatever.
Okay.
Sykes Jr. And his son came to the booth. Mike Tempesta from Fender brought him there because I knew him pretty well from him coming with his dad a lot. Like he's older. He's in his, must be in his 30s or something. Okay. And he's an adult, but he would come with his dad a lot and help him out, or they were at the storage locker helping him out or whatever. And he would come, and I was just like, oh shit, I don't have his number, man. I would really like to reach out to him and give him my condolences to him and stuff. And Mike brought him around, and I have his number now. But I met his other son, which I had never met at the same time. But I'm like just sitting there looking at him, and I go, dude, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say to you. I'm like, I just gave my condolences, and I'm like going, man. We talked about a bunch of shit though there, and we're like,
yeah,
dude, when all this settles and everything, man, I'm like, I'd love to have you on the show just to talk about life and times of your father and stuff, and at least he knew. He was always frustrated with his dad because his dad would never do anything. Like,
well, that's what I was just going to say.
You have a record, let's go. You have a record finish, and I go. I even asked him. I go, so will the record that's done, because it's been done, ever see the light of day? He goes, I don't know yet. This is all brand new, so I don't know what's going to happen yet, but maybe. And
that's where we're selfish, right? Because it's like I'm that way with Jimmy Page. They did the 2007 concert, whatever, and I'm like, when's this guy going to do something? You know what I mean? Because he's my hero, but he's not. No, obviously he's not.
Not now.
And it's like the same with Sykes, because I love John Sykes, and I didn't even make a statement about him or nothing when he died, because I'm just so, I'm so tired of people I love dying that I'm just numb to.
Oh my God, we're gonna see so many.
It's so fucked up. And
look, think about the Stones, Stones, and the Who, and all the members of of Led Zeppelin and stuff. They're all 80 years old at least, and maybe if they're lucky they're gonna live another 8 to 10 years, maybe. Baby.
No, I know.
Keith Richards might live 20, but
he'll outlive us all.
He might make 100.
I saw a picture of Keith Richards. He's holding two babies, and it said Keith with Adam and Eve.
Right.
Well, that's good. I like it.
That was funny as shit.
But like in the case with John, like I don't know how old John was, but obviously probably 70-ish, I imagine.
No, I don't think he was even that old.
So it's like about the
mid. I want to say, mid 60s, I think.
Yeah, but he's always kind of been out of the media, out of social media.
Oh yeah, he hated that shit.
So it's like, but the music, he, like you said, he completed a record and stuff like that. It's just that when guys, when you make something and it's done, a guy like him or even a guy like me is kind of like, oh, I did it. I'm happy now. Like I'm satisfied. I finished it. And like actually putting it out is a whole nother ball game. You know what I mean? It's our art project. You know what I mean? And we hope people like it, but if we like it, we're happy. So like I have a feeling that's why, like, he never got around to really getting serious about putting it out in an urgent kind of way. Or same with Page. He's happy.
Well, I mean, like I think John was like disenchanted with the music industry completely, and things don't work today like they used to work. You know, it's like you're not gonna get someone to give you a bunch of money to put this out, you know, and do this. You know, could he have self-released that record and probably made money on it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You could probably printed up some vinyl and made a fortune on his old fans alone, you know, just selling the vinyl, even if it's shipping it himself, you know, but like, you know, hey, signed each one, see how much you get for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's for real. I
think he seemed very financially stable. You know?
Exactly.
So like I don't think there was any issues with finances at all in his life. So,
but he's one of the guys, you know what I mean? And that's the thing that, you know, I think a lot of people love him and his legacy, but like to me, like he's really one of the guys. Like he's one of those fucking guys. And it's like so apparent when he enters on that huge Whitesnake record. It's just like, hello, like listen to that, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, I don't know if it's in the hands. I think it's in the amp. I think it's in the guitar. I think it's in the stars, you know, but he's one of the guys.
I remember him telling me the whole like firing story of Whitesnake after that record was completed, and how every single band member was just sort of like just not talked to anymore. Like no calls, no nothing, no zero. They didn't know what was going on, but just no one was calling them.
Wow.
And it was just slow process, and he was one of the last ones. Wow. And eventually he told me some interesting things, but he goes in the end, he goes, let me tell you one thing. He goes, if I ever saw David again, I'd deck him.
Wow.
And he said this with like a mean English fucking like thug kind of attitude.
I didn't know that, but I always thought, you know, that David must fancy himself as he is Whitesnake, and that he had these guys play on the record.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are done now, and then I'm going to hire these other guys. But somebody like Ainsley Dunbar and John Sykes, I mean, like you can't really replicate that with somebody.
What are you thinking? Why would you even think to fire them?
Yeah, it's like, but that's where in David's mind it's probably like, you know, this is my project. This is how I'm going to do it.
I'm Whitesnake.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, I mean,
I really don't think of him as Whitesnake. Yes, he's done lots of stuff without John Sykes, but to be honest, for me, John Sykes,
that album is
Whitesnake.
That is Whitesnake, that album.
So, my God. Well, I mean, the sales and the popularity and the accolades, certainly. I mean, you know, a lot of people would say it's Tawny Katane made that album, but that's not true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, Vai joined after Sykes, right?
Yeah.
What was the album?
Well, he joined even after, you know, because it was Adrian Vandenberg and Vivian Campbell.
Right.
And they did that whole tour and all that. Then the next thing up was a new album, and then Vai came in, and Vai actually played a Bernie Marsden song on that album and some other stuff, and then went and toured. And I don't think Steve had a great experience in the band either. We've never talked about it, but I get the impression he didn't.
Yeah, he was on our show too. I don't remember us talking much about that.
Yeah, I don't think we covered.
Yeah, we didn't cover that much of that. Yeah, it must have been a reason.
Yeah. You know, but I mean, but it's funny because, you know, you have kind of like Ozzy and David Coverdale as kind of guys that were, you know, a throughway for great musicians, you know. I mean?
Yeah.
Singers. And, you know, you got Jake. I'm sure he has some interesting Ozzy stories.
He's got great. Oh, yeah. We've had very long shows with them.
Yeah, Jake was on twice. Yes.
Jake's a cool guy. I never met him.
Oh my God, you got to meet him sometime.
I saw him play at Rat though.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, when I was, I don't know, 15.
Wow.
And I was at the Troubadour, and he was playing stage right, and he had like some purple Marshall or something. I remember, and it was so loud. I just sat there like,
oh yeah, that's him.
Like wow.
There's no master volumes.
Yeah, it was just like
All
blaring.
the way up.
And I remember that. And then I saw him play at the US Festival. And Bob Daisley played that day because Don Costa punched in the mouth.
Oh, yeah, we had the very, very fun firing story of Don Costa.
Oh, tell it. Just quick.
So this was before the US Festival, and then from what we understand, Ozzy called Don into his back lounge on the bus or something. That's right. And this was reiterated by Bob Daisley, basically the same story too. So I know it's correct.
Yeah.
So he and I don't, forgive me if I get some of the details wrong, but he went in the back lounge of the bus, and next thing Jake said he saw was him running out, clutching his nose, and blood just streaming down his face. You go outside, he goes, "What the fuck happened?" Hey, he fucking didn't he say he headbutted him? He headbutted. He said, come here. I want to tell you something. And he fucking headbutted him. He was wasted. And he headbutted him right in the nose. Like that's what he called him in there to do. And Jake's like, well, what does that mean? I mean, like, are you gonna, what's gonna happen now? And I guess later he says, "Oh yeah, we worked it all out." They just say, "Yeah, just show up for the US Festival,
right,
next week or whenever it is, right?" And so he shows up for the US Festival, and Jake's like goes up on stage, and he sees Bob Daisley there on stage, and he goes, "Uh-oh, I know who you are. I'm Jake. Why are you here?"
Wow.
Well, I'm going to be playing bass. Oh. And then he said he proceeds to look over a little while later, and Don pulls up to the US Festival. We're going to be playing the US Festival. And he pulls up with his family in tow, right? He pulls up to the US Festival, and Jake's just like, oh, God, this isn't going to be good.
Holy shit.
And they made him come to the US Festival with his whole family in tow and fired him right on the spot.
Wow.
Brutal.
Wow. Because I became friends with Don after that.
A
year later.
Wow. And some of those details might be lost, but you're going to have Jake tell the story in one of our episodes if someone wants to go listen.
Yeah, it's back in episode 1.
So it was terrible.
Well, I mean, so, knowing Don wanted to start a band with me and Axel called Heads of Amazon. And this is before Guns N' Roses. We were just doing LA Guns. We're at a sound check at the Troubadour, and Don's drinking at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Comes in and he watches the sound check, and then come off stage, and he comes up to us, and he had a purple, fur jacket on. It was Don Costa. You guys are fantastic. Let's do something together. And we had our band, but we were still open to do anything, right? We're like, yeah, okay, man. What do you want to do? We kind of knew who he was. We knew he played in Dante Fox and Wasp and stuff like that. So I became friends with him, and he had written some songs, and we had all gotten together, and Axel had a cassette, and he learned these words his own way, and I learned the guitar part. So we went to go rehearse with this drummer, Louis McCorkle, out in the valley on Oxnard. This engineer guy named Jamie, he was a guitar player. He had a studio in one of those little warehouse things. So we go over there, and Don had driven me. I don't know how Axel got there, but maybe he drove both me and Axel in a little 280Z, and get in there. And Jamie has all the gear set up, and Louis McCorkle's jamming along on a big like Tommy Aldridge kind of kit. I was so into Randy Rhoads then. And Jamie had like, a JMP with a distortion plus hooked up for me. And here's Don, and he comes in, and he's got his P bass, and all of a sudden he's wasted like that quick, like so fast he's drunk after just driving us. Didn't see him for 10 minutes, and he's drunk. And then I see him set on the bass amp, 2 of those little bottles of Jack Daniels, the very little ones. Because I gotta pee and then we'll start. So he takes the bottles and leaves them on his amp, goes in there, and I go, he's drunk, right? And everybody's like, yes, he's drunk. I'm like, fuck. So I grab those bottles and I put them in the back of my Marshall head. You know, there was no back on it. I stuck them in there. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. So he comes back in, freaks the fuck out because the bottles aren't there. Grabs his bass, goes running out into Oxnard Boulevard. Or he goes, I'll be right back. And he grabs his bass, and we're like, oh shit, what's going on here? So 10 minutes go by. We're like, oh, he's not coming back. So we go outside, and his car's there. We're like, okay, his car's here. Where the fuck is he? And so we're just talking out in the parking lot for like, I don't know, 20 minutes. And here comes Don Costa running down Oxnard, the middle of the street, with his P bass dragging on the ground. And we just see him go right past. And that's the last time I ever saw him.
Wow.
You know, and before that, he had told me all, you know, what his side of the Ozzy story and stuff like that. And I go, but wow. Like I was 17 at the time. Like, wow, I don't believe anything you're saying because this can't be reality. Like you can, like, really? Like Ozzy headbutted you and like you bled and then you didn't play the biggest show of your life because like I just couldn't get it in there. But yeah, Don had a big heart. He's a good guy, but he had his own alcohol thing going on. And you know, I'm pretty sure between Ozzy's thing and his thing and Sharon, that wasn't just gonna.
Yeah, it was just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Chris Puckett, when we were talking about Axl, he wants to know, legend on the show. I have to ask, what was it like to play with Axl Rose?
It was awesome. You know, the first time I had seen Axl sing, Izzy was my friend before I knew Axl, and they grew up together in Indiana. Axl would come out every now and then, and I had met him a couple of times, but I never heard him sing. And we did Poison's first show in LA was at Madame Wong's West. And
I remember that place.
Yeah. So that was like Gilby was the sound man there. And LA Guns and Hollywood Rose were playing downstairs. We had a gig, all 3 bands together before anything happened to anybody. And I had never heard Axl sing before. So they were headlining. Hollywood Rose was downstairs. So I got to watch Axl check his mic, you know, for the first time. And I was like, whoa. And I walk up to Izzy. I go, wow, he can really sing. And, he goes, and you know, Izzy is very demure. And he goes, I told you. like, wow. So, you know, through a series of events, whatever, he ended up in LA Guns and then we did Guns N' Roses. But yeah, you know, I mean, anytime you're on stage with somebody that has that capacity, you know, and that kind of talent, you know, all of that part is a pleasurable experience, you know, like that is like you can tell the difference between someone that's good and someone that's Axl Rose. You know, it's very obvious and it's a pleasure to be around. And I did it as long as I could. You know what I mean? You know, I stood next to the fire and then I'm like, I'm about to get burned. I'm out, you know. But you know, but as far as my experience with him, it was amazing.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, he was amazing when he was real, you know.
Oh yeah, back in the
early on, and yeah, amazing.
Oh, so good. I remember we lived in this little house in the valley for a minute with our manager, and some of my favorite times with him is when he'd be taking a shower and singing to different stuff, like on our Ghetto Blaster, and he used to love singing to the first Wasp record. So you know you'd hear Axl and they go, hell, you know, they'll just be like, yeah, go, yeah. all this stuff. You know, he's a great singer, man.
That's awesome.
That is very cool. Well, I want to thank you, Tracii, for coming on the show, man. It was awesome to get to know you, and excited about the album coming out in April. And you know, just want to thank you for coming on the show. Everybody who's watching, make sure you hit subscribe. click the bell and you'll get all the notifications for when we have our next show. And all that other stuff. We're on Instagram and Twitter, and just look up Tone Talk and you'll find us. All right. And I think that's it.
Hey, seriously, thanks. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be on this show. You know, Dave, you are the Ant-Man. You're not the Walrus, and and it's like I said, it feels really good to talk to you. Great to meet you, Mark. And
same here.
Let's go have meet at Musso and Frank's.
Yeah, I'll give you a call about that.
Okay,
we will make that happen.
Yes, it's very decadent, and I love it.
It's fantastic there.
Awesome. Is it a steakhouse?
Yeah, but it's 100 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
It's been there 100 years.
Yeah, it's
still the same.
Yeah, it's still the same. But they have like some Italian, they have steak, they have fish, a lot of seafood.
Yeah.
Have you not been there, Mark?
No, I haven't been to Musso.
Oh, you got to just walk by the kitchen. That's even enough.
Walking in the back door always makes me happy because you're just like you're stepping into the 20s or the 20s,
Yeah.
You walk down the stairs and you walk over to the right, and you're just like, oh God, I love this.
Oh, it's incredible. So when you walk down in the back, they still have the old, I don't know what kind of wood that is, but they have the old phone booths.
Yeah.
Still there.
Like teak or something. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no phones in them, but they're still there.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just such a crazy old worldy, feeling you get in there. And the food's really good.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I love about LA. It's got
and consistent.
Yeah. Yep.
You will get the same ribeye every single time you go. It never changes. Every time I've been there, it tastes exactly the same. It's exactly done the same.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm gonna go eat. Yeah.
I'm gonna make some Chef Boyardee now. Thanks.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Well,
right,
guys, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in the next couple weeks. Tracii, it was awesome to meet you. Thanks for coming on. Hang on while we say goodbye. All right, everybody. We'll say goodbye offline. All right. Take care, everybody.